I want to call to order the January 8th, 2024. So I got to do my intro again.
Hi.
I like the way I sound. Good evening. I want to call to order the January 8th, 2024 Harpersburg Town Council meeting to order. It is 7:01 p.m. All members of the council are present. We have Ms. Mead Curry remotely. Let's everybody stand and pledge while we're here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the
republic for which it stands, nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
Oh.
Off we go.
Motion to approve the agenda, council.
I have a motion to change the agenda.
Just a minute. Roberta, I want to ask you please to turn on your video. It makes it easier for me to run this meeting with your video on.
Okay, and I know sometimes when the video is on that you guys can't hear me all that well, so I can do that.
You're in a very high volume just now, by the way.
Okay, did you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, is the video coming through now?
No.
Okay, let's try this. How's that?
There you go. I
Okay.
think. Okay. Thank you, Roberta. All right, go ahead with your.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to let me see, hold on, I have this thing typed up. Let me find it. Sorry. Okay, make a motion to move the following agenda items, number 7H, Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2, and item number 8A to a special meeting to be scheduled in the next 7 days. Each of these agenda items to have discussion and action, and I emphasize and action, placed on the special meeting agenda. And the reason for this is I believe 7H, I, 1 and 2 are my agenda items that should have action on them and they don't. And we agreed in December that we would have a special meeting for those items. And item 8A should have action on it as well. Do I have a second on that?
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, council, any discussion on the motion to move 7HI, 7HII, and 8A to a special council meeting within 7 days, I think she said, did she not?
Yeah.
Okay,
I have discussion.
okay, I see your hand up, George. Let me think for a second here what I'm doing. All right, go ahead, George.
Thank you very much, Greg. I'd agree with this in the interest of getting the meeting to move along quickly, and the fact that these matters, would be held better than. The other is, and I'll address this to you, Roberta. I don't know if you're aware, but Mayor Vaughn here requested a special meeting on the 18th, having to do with water, and we could piggyback the two of them there, and that would make for a nice little agenda. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Nina.
My hesitation is I'm okay with setting up a special meeting. Just the next 7 days might be a little bit too, because we have so many people's schedules to take into consideration, and a weekend and a holiday coming up. You might want to leave that a little bit more open-ended to just prior to the next meeting or something like that. But I just worry that we're kind of limiting our time slot.
What do you think about the 18th?
Let's see.
Any other discussion, Storm?
Yeah, I would say, thing is, we haven't yet set that next meeting, but I think that would make sense.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Aye.
Did we need a second?
It was.
Yeah,
Opposed? Okay, all right, with that, pardon me,
What was the result?
5-2, 5-4, 2 opposed.
The motion passes?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sir, I have a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay, go ahead, George.
Thank you. I'd like to move item 7I to, excuse me, let me read specifically here. Move 7I, Parking Committee, until after the approval of the minutes. And my reason for this is to expedite the matter and in deference to people who wouldn't perhaps want to wait till the end of the meeting for that.
All right,
So
so
that would
second
be
to that
s-
motion. One second. Discussion on the motion. Zach,
I seconded, only because to my knowledge, this is the only agenda item that we've sort of given ourselves a bit of a timeline to complete, that we need to act on this before next month to get the parking policy going. So in moving it forward, we would be able to just make sure we discuss it and not run out of time tonight.
okay, any other discussion? Chris?
I, maybe Patrick, or the chief can help us. I was thinking Christian was gonna be coming in later this evening for this item. Is that correct? So, have some concerns about that. I don't know whether he'll be able to.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion fails. All right, approval of the agenda,
What was referred?
approval of the agenda. All right, somebody put a motion on the floor with the changes that Roberta did, Chris.
I move to accept the agenda as presented with the exception of the 3 deleted items.
I second that.
Thank you, George. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Roberta's your hand up? I can't see it.
I have a question. The motion that Chris is making, he's approving the adjustments made, correct? He's approving the
Yes.
agenda as adjusted, correct?
Yes, your adjustment.
Okay.
Your
Okay.
adjustment. Now you want to put your hand up?
Yes, I approve it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Just clarify, who was the second on that?
It was
George.
George. Okay, public comment, Nina, do you have it by you?
All right, our first person up is Wayne Bishop for agenda item 9.
Okay, thank you, and certainly Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to see everybody in our small town. And I'd like to thank the mayor for clearing the streets and the walks in a completely unpredictable storm. Good job, we appreciate that, keeping us safe. And my comment this evening is about the last item on the agenda. And I just wanted to express that I think you are all serving our town as elected officials in a very good time right now. None of you, or you're not dealing, this administration isn't dealing with a single major issue that's dividing our town. You're not dealing with a horrific fire that almost destroyed our entire town. You're not having to deal with a train derailment that crashed into the Potomac River, or an outside entity trying to take over our water system, or even COVID sweeping its way through the community, our businesses, or trying to scrape up money for our police and fire departments. So I just would ask, I think that what this administration needs to do is find compromise. So please take the time to allow, through analysis by our elected officials, you all, our commissions and our committees, to review this proposed change, in the last item on the agenda. I said, then you'll find compromise and work together. So that's my message, and that was my comment, and thank you for allowing my comment.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
All right, next we have George Owens for agenda item 7I3.
Hi, I'm gonna drop my council member hat for a minute, and I'd like to introduce myself as a candidate for the parking committee. As you know, as you may know, I was a president of an HOA in Loudoun County for 15 years, from the very beginning of that community. And the developer in that situation, there in Ashburn, did not create sufficient parking spaces for the community. So we were left with nor a plan to deal with parking. I was the person who designed the parking plan that provided everyone, every resident there, every unit, 2 spaces, and set aside another 10% for guests. It had to be, it was rough instituting at first, but what I learned was a valuable thing was to walk away from conflict and let law enforcement handle matters. That parking policy has been in place now for 20 years, 19, excuse me, I instituted it in 2004. I've taken an interest in our parking, and 2 things that I found that I reported to our law enforcement on have become part of the proposal for policy that we're going to look at tonight. And I want to thank the parking committee for being responsive. Parking is a public resource in our town and has become a financial resource as well. What I want to bring to this committee is a focus on what is fair and how this resource can best serve our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. All right, and then last we have Joe Keaty on 7G2.
I'm sorry, what's the name?
7G.
Joe Keaty.
Hi. Yeah, I'm not super fond of public speaking, so I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible. I've put myself forward as a planning committee candidate. I realize I don't know everybody in the room. Probably know most of the people here. Been living here for just about 2 years now, almost. I'm a freelance translator, so as far as like kind of qualifications for that kind of work, I mean that the work I do day to day generally involves a lot of kind of low grade research, and it's a lot of legal translation, so it's a lot of digging into kind of minutia of that kind of thing. And as far as why I would want to take on a thing like this, I mean it's I came in here recognizing that this is a very small town, and that we don't really have an army of paid bureaucrats to get stuff done for us. So I kind of take pretty seriously the idea that we all kind of have to actually do stuff ourselves if stuff is going to get done. So that's basically it. That's kind of my intro spiel, so to speak. So thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right, and that is all the public comment we have.
Okay, thank you. Patty, could you, or would you, I think you may know the latest on Barbara without making any revelations about privacy issues or anything. Could you kind of give an update on Barbara,
Sure.
but don't reveal private things?
So as many of you know, Barbara Humes, who has been a past town council member, worked very extensively on the Water Commission, fell and broke her hip pretty severely. And so she has had a hip replacement, and she is currently in rehab in Leesburg. So I do have her, I have gone to visit her, I've talked to her on the phone, and she's got a long haul to recover from. So I do have her address and contact information. If anybody would like to send her a card, let me know, and I can hook you up with her mailing address. Phone, I'd rather not get out, but I can give out an email address as well. So she could use some cheering up.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Patty.
Thanks, Pat.
Next item, mayor's announcements. Council, we have a very long agenda this evening, and I'm asking each of you to do your best to move things along without unnecessary exchanges, and let's keep it to relevant and purposeful discussions. Plus, Some of us want to get home to watch the National Collegiate Football Championship that only comes once a year. And then finally, I see no reason why we need to spend an eternity on a parking committee issue. That regrettably consumed well over an hour a month ago. Let's simply get to the point, close it out, and move on to other issues affecting this town. Nina?
Yeah, so just kind of to add to that, we're gonna try and wrap up today at 9:30. It's hard to believe, but I think around 9:30, we should start evaluating what's left on the agenda to see if there are things that maybe require a special meeting that would maybe be more appropriate, or if there are things that we can postpone. Hopefully we can get through everything by then, but I think around 9:20-ish, we might take a little bit of a pause to just reassess what we have left on the agenda, and see where we're at. And also just a further announcement, on Monday the 15th, City Hall will be closed for the holiday, for MLK Day. So if you are in need of anything, they'll be open again on Tuesday.
Thank you, Nina. As far as community announcements, the only one I've got one from Laurel Zamansky. She is in travel status. She wanted to be here this evening, but she's out of state. And she sent me a real brief email. It says, I'm traveling for work today. Hilltop permitting is in full swing with the site plan permit application at the state and the Yellow House and Lodge to be submitted next week. The permit for the main hotel will be submitted in 3 weeks. This process puts all 4 permits approved in February, period. Park Service, I don't believe that, I believe they have not yet selected a superintendent yet. I think that is still ongoing. Information that I received, it'll be a while yet. So they do have an actor there now, which is Ryan Levins, right? He's still acting. So if there's any issues, reach out to me or feel free to reach out to Ryan. And as soon as we get confirmation of a selection, I'll bring that individual before this board and we can meet the new superintendent. Who?
Roberta.
I can't see Roberta's hand. Roberta, you're going to have to raise it like this.
Okay, I can, sir.
Oh, there you go. Now I can see your hand.
Okay. All right. I'm relying on the technology to give you my little yellow hand. But real quick, let's go back to the Hilltop. Did they, real quickly, a quick question, receive their TIF approval yet, or are they still waiting on that?
The only thing I know, Roberta, is what I just read. I don't believe there's anybody around this table.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe the TIF, Roberta, has come up to the commission yet. Okay, so, and I know that they're probably anxious to move on with that. I checked the agenda for the upcoming commission meeting. I didn't see anything on it. So that's a good point, Roberta. I don't know where it's at. And if I did know, I would have brought that out. Chris?
I have 2 quick announcements. Sure. This Wednesday at 10 o'clock at the Mather Training Center, the Canal Town Partnership will be meeting. And we have been moved into the large classrooms, so there should be plenty of room. I'd like to especially give a special invitation to all the council members and to the merchants. So feel free to be there. And I'd also like to thank Battlegrounds and Towns Inn for providing refreshments to that meeting.
Chris, what was the time?
That was 10 o'clock.
AM?
AM, yeah, 10 to noon. And the time, they're usually pretty good about holding to that schedule. The following Wednesday, the 17th, Elks Run Watershed will be meeting right here at 2:30 in the afternoon. If anyone is interested in attending that, feel free to.
Thanks, Chris. Any other community announcements? Okay. Nina, I believe you have item 4A. approval. Go ahead, Roberta.
Yes, if you want Nina to speak to us first regarding the minutes, but I have, I'd like to kind of postpone the meeting minute approval for this evening. But go ahead, Nina, and then if you can come back to me, Mayor, please.
Okay. Well, actually, my proposal was to postpone the meeting minutes for February because I received some feedback of like 9 changes to make, and I feel like that's too many to be approved tonight. So I wanted to postpone the meeting minutes for approval for February.
I'll second that.
Discussion on a motion to postpone the meeting minutes till February. Chris.
The only thing is that, if we could have just a little bit more time to review those.
Yeah, the changes were not large. It was just unfortunate timing of getting them out.
Yeah, yeah, that would help move them along because I think the public needs to see what's going on.
Okay, any other discussion on proposal to defer until February? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you, Roberta, for that.
Thank you, Nina.
Debbie? I believe, is there anything else on minutes you want to mention, Nina? Okay, go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, right here.
Yeah.
So good evening, Council and Mayor. The financials here for this evening are for the closing of November, 42% of the year. In the general fund, our budgeted numbers represent revision 1 for fiscal 24. And excluding our carry forward balance, our targeted operating income is $1,076,000. Income as of November 30 of $587,000 represents about 53% of anticipated for the year. And our operating expenses are at about 42%. For waterworks, the overall revenue received through November is 42%, with water receipts specifically at the 45.8% mark and operating income 42%. Any questions on it?
Storm?
Yeah, thank you. Usual question. So with the closure, it appears that the revenues were indeed not dented.
Yeah, I would say for businesses that are here in Harpers Ferry, the impact, I don't think it was non-existent, but I don't think that it caused any overall concern for anyone that I've been aware of. I haven't seen any indications. We are just getting B&O taxes in for the last quarter, so those aren't included in these numbers, but.
I move to approve the November 2023 financial reports as presented.
Second on the motion to approve. Second from Chris. Discussion on the motion to approve. All those in favor of the motion to approve financials? 7-0. Thank you.
And then you have the invoices for the purchasing threshold are on the table there. Any questions on any of those?
Yeah, so the accounting firm, that was the largest one.
Right. So the every year we have to have the PSC report done, turned into that. That gets billed as a separate item. It's not part of our monthly charges, and so that's why that one's held out on its own. And then for the other one, that amount that was on that invoice for general fund just pushed the amount over the threshold by a couple $100. So that's why that is sitting there. I'll be happy to say also plant chemicals. It looks like we are definitely off Potomac water now, so that's great. Steve is working on his final projections for the end of the year, and I think we may be just in line with what we've got. So that's very, very encouraging. And he's, thanks to his management of those purchases, I believe will fall in line there. Oh, and then I do want to, even though you didn't ask, I do want to address waste management. I'm not sure if this is an indicator of things to come, but the reason this is on here is that this takes care of our waste receptacle outside, which we double up on during the heavy season. We have a threshold of, I don't know, I think it's like maybe 730 or 720 to 789. They put on there $133 for fuel surcharge. So that is and it looks like they're doing that across the board with all their customers, probably not at that rate, and it probably has to do with 2 pickups. We're dropping back to 1 pickup now. But just kind of want to value into that, you know, this is just cost of living stuff happening. And that's why this is on here. So we'll adjust the chart as it becomes necessary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
I move to approve the invoices and purchases above the threshold as presented.
Second on the motion to approve. Got a second from Zach. I saw that hand go up before Chris. Discussion on the motion to approve. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 7-0. Thank you. All right, we move to the deferred actions. 6A IOC. Nina, are you handling this?
Yeah, and we can make this pretty quick. And actually, we have no action that's really required. It's more of just information. The IOC met prior to the December meeting, and we had discussed sort of the next steps regarding creating a town logo and town website. And we decided the best option for both of those would be to reach out, start kind of a bidding process where third-party companies can come to us with sort of quotes based on a list of requirements that we collaborated with to create. So the next step will be bringing that to Budget and Finance to have I think it's RFP. Is that what we're looking for? Yeah, an RFP created from Budget and Finance to then have those sent out. So the next Budget and Finance meeting, we're making sure that's added to the agenda so we can move forward with that. So that.
Zach, go ahead.
Roberta had her hand up first, so I can defer.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Roberta.
Yes, and that was just for the town logo report. Is that correct, Nina?
That's both for the town logo and the website. We decided it was best to handle both through sort of doing a bidding process. There are a lot of companies that work with municipalities in creating websites. So based on sort of a list of, and I believe I could send out a copy of what we had created. I thought I sent it out last month, but I did not send it out this month. But Storm had created, we collaboratively worked together to create a list of what we would be looking for from a website and also from a town logo, which would be sent out as part of the RFP. Once we go through that RFP process with Budget and Finance, then we would bring that forward to council for approval before we would go through requesting any bids.
Okay, if we're going to take this line items one at a time, I have no issues with how you're handling the town logo right now until I look at further documentation, but I do have some serious information I'd like to relay to the town council regarding the town website information. In fact, Zach, if you wanted to talk about the town logo, I'll yield to you, but come back to me because I have significant information on the town website information.
What item are we on? Point of order. What
Yeah.
item?
I guess we'll just start with 6A2. That would cover the update. Go ahead.
I just had a quick comment
Yeah.
that I heard to the grapevine that an original or near original copy of the current town logo had been found. And I know one of the issues was that it's been copied so many times that it's barely legible at this point. So if that's an option to save time and effort, that now exists. That's my bit of information.
Okay. I'll take that under consideration. And then I guess for number 6A3, because we're just doing discussion, Roberta, if you have any comments?
Yes, again, I sent a agenda item request for December regarding the town website, because I have lots of issues regarding that. So, what I would like to try to see is the following, is we have lots of information that needs to be sent to us. And I understand there's confusion on what's going on with the town website. A lot of the town website is not up to date, hasn't been up to date for going on 3 years now. Information is not posted, is posted. It's being, how do you say, cherry picked what goes on there. And some of the committees gets their information on there where some of the committees are not getting their information on there. And I don't understand why. So, what I had asked for in my agenda item request is one, that the town council receive the current contract of the town's website editor. We need to know what that contract says. If it's expired, we need to know that. If there's a new contract that needs to be made, then the town needs to request within the next 30 days or less, like to see it in less, that the town website administrator submit a new contract to the town for review and approval, if we want to do that. If the current town website administrator does not want to continue with the duties, then I suggest the town issue an RFP for new website administrators to handle what we need. Again, the information is not getting out to the public, not getting out to us. Our meetings are not even posted half the time on the website. So I would like to make several motions, if you'll let me, to regards to those items.
Roberta, before you start with your motions, I want to defer to Nina. You've heard what Roberta says, so before Roberta puts out, whatever motions that she's got, where do you see this going? I think that would be
So part of
important.
what we're doing within IOC for the website and the submission for the RFP to Budget and Finance is to request price quotes on management of the website for a third party as well. So if they were not only hosting, but what their management system would look like. So they would essentially be the webmaster or the web administrator. So that is part of the RFP that we are proposing. So that might take care of some of what you are requesting. From my understanding, I don't know if we have a copy of that contract. I have not seen a copy of the contract. So I know that that's still up in the air. So I guess we could put a motion forward towards creating a new contract as an interim until we sort of come up with a solution if we're going to go with a third party that would manage it, if we'll be going with our current webmaster for managing it, and that's something to consider in the future. Go ahead, Storm.
Let me make a comment. Now, Roberta, you made a comment and you said some committees are not getting their information on the website, and I assume that that's correct. My only question to you is, are they submitting items to be put on a website that are not being put on a website? Do you know the answer to that question?
Yes, sir, and I can speak specifically to the two committees that I am on, Planning Commission and ORC. I've submit data and information, and also my agenda item request. All that used to be posted on the website prior to the meetings. So I personally am experiencing that our meetings are not even being posted on the website, that the documents associated with those meetings are not being put on the website. And so it's a gross misinformation to the town and its people.
Okay, Roberta, are you submitting those items that are not getting on the website? Are you submitting those items to the administrative officer to get them placed on the website through our webmaster?
No, sir. I understand the protocol was to submit our information to the town clerk and to the town recorder, and the town recorder would pass that on to the website administrator. I know in the interim all this that the recorder suggested that we contact the town website administrator ourselves. I've done that to no avail. And then I understand the recorder pulled back that protocol and said, no, it'll be taken care of another way. We'll get it on the website. And to this day, it's still not there.
Okay,
So-
Nina, would you address that, please?
Yeah, the email chain back in November where it had come up that there were issues with items ending up on the agenda. I had suggested reaching out to the administrator directly. However, Berlissa then informed me that the proper process is for her to receive those requests and then pass them on. So I had reiterated, honestly, I think like 5 minutes later, that the correct policy was actually to go through Berlissa, then submit those items. So the town clerk should receive any requests. She forwards those to the website administrator, and that's how they end up. I should be CC'd just sheerly for the recorder's purposes. So I will make copies of anything that I receive so they can be properly stored, but I do not transmit those items to the website administrator.
Okay, Storm, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just, we may want to consider executive session if this conversation continues to go in a direction where we're getting into personnel matters.
Correct. All right, Roberta, I'm going to turn it back to you. You had a series of motions. Some of those emotions. You had a series of motions. Some of those motions may be overridden by Nina's previous comments, but go ahead and we'll take her, see where we go.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the town council authorize a newly formed committee to work on in haste and expedite delivery of a new website. In other words, the committee would be responsible for issuing the RFQ, also issuing the RFP. The committee will meet and develop the needs and requirements and functions and appearance of the new website. And the committee to have a standing place for status reports at each regular town council meeting. And I have this typed up, Nina, for you if this gets forward.
Okay. Before I ask for a second, when council members, when you have a motion that goes on and on, it would, out of the courtesy to the recorder and to the mayor and those seated around the table, it would be nice to get these motions, not emotions, but motions well ahead of time.
I actually believe the motion is out of order because the committee has already been invested.
Right.
With the duty.
And I was going to wait for discussion to mention that. Is there a second on that first motion?
I'll put a second because I want discussion.
All right, we'll move to discussion. Is there discussion on the motion? Nina?
Yeah, so this is actually what we've already started. So we've already met, we've already established sort of a baseline of requirements for the website. We're moving to work with budget and finance to establish an RFP. Then we'll bring that before council for their review. Hopefully by the February meeting, we'll have that done. So then we can move forward with the next steps of getting an actual bid out there and a quote. And then we'll be bringing that back to council for review when we have several options. So we're actually already progressing in that direction.
Okay, thank you. Zach,
Withdraw my hand.
you withdraw?
Yeah.
George?
Yes, I want to address this to Roberta. Roberta, unless I'm wrong, it sounds like Nina has just outlined the soul and substance of what your motion asked for. And so I would ask that you withdraw your motion, and I'll withdraw my second.
Go ahead, Roberta.
Okay, I do not want to withdraw it at this time. So let me ask these questions. I would personally like to know where the committee is. Is it a committee under IOC or is it an ad hoc committee?
Okay, Roberta, we are in discussion point on a second on a motion. Now, you've had two discussions yourself, correct?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay, you have not? Okay, you've had at
No,
least
sir, I have
one,
not.
right? Are there any other discussion on the motion?
I can just clarify that.
Okay.
This is a duty that's been taken on by the IOC. There is no subcommittee that's managing this.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in, Chris, go ahead.
I thought the second was withdrawn, so
So
that,
I was offering to withdraw,
Yeah.
upon the withdrawal. of
so
the
you
motion.
have not withdrawn
I
yet?
have not withdrawn.
Okay,
it.
any other discussion?
Thank you, Chris.
All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Okay, opposed? Motion fails, 1-6. Go ahead, Roberta, give me your next motion, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion that the town website administrator contract agreement be presented to the town council for review. The
Say
current,
that- I didn't follow that, Roberta.
Okay.
Say it again, slow down.
okay, I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion that the current town website administrator's contract and or agreement be presented to the town council for review.
Okay, second. Okay, any discussion on the motion? George?
I think that is long overdue, and I'm glad to see that happen.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0. Give me the next one, Roberta, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that the town website administrator contract renewal, if that is needed, be presented within the next 15 working days. The new contract to be detailed as to scope of services, timeframes for posting, protocol for processing, and procedures to follow, fees involved, town council to review and make a determination at the next, let me just do this. Make a determination at a reasonable time to revise, accept, and formally contract with a website administrator. And I again have these typed up. I'll send them to you, Nina.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second for the purpose of discussion.
Okay, discussion on the motion. Let me go with Nina first.
I just feel like it might be counterintuitive to have us present the contract for review and then also be requesting a new contract essentially within the same time period. So that's my only hesitation, is that we're kind of.
Okay, Storm, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just practically speaking, the website is going to be under development and the specifications and the duties may change. So, are likely to change based on what the end product of the website is.
Right. Zach?
Just a sort of a point of clarification, was the motion that Roberta just made predicated on if the current contract needs to be renewed?
That's
Correct.
correct.
We won't have to read the contract.
We won't know anything until,
So that was my.
yeah. Roberta?
Yes, and Zach understood me correctly. Yes, if the current contract is now null and void, or we can't find it, we don't know that it truly exists, then we do need a contract ASAP. Thank you, Zach.
Okay. Any other discussion? George?
I wanted to clarify that Nina's point is very well taken, that sufficient time has to be elapsed for the current contract to be presented. That's key here. And I'd also like to point out that Roberta's last phrase on that was for us to act on new contract at a reasonable time. And so I think that's sufficient to allow, it gets this whole process moving forward. And I don't believe we're restricted to having it happen by the February meeting, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chris?
My priority would be to go with this moving on a new website, and I would like not to get too drug out on the old. So I feel that your motion is counterproductive. I understand a lot of your concerns, but I feel it's going to be counterproductive.
I'm going to ask the recorder to express your position, Nina, from the recorder's standpoint on that motion that Roberta just gave.
My only hesitation, well, I feel like the two items should have been reversed within the time frame. So the 15 days to receive the contract and review it, and then if it's expired, then to take action on it. The opposite direction, because my only concern is just that we would be taking action. We'd have 15 days if something is expired to then create a new contract and then present that to town council. I'm not sure. I'm hesitant to move forward with the second item. I do agree with the first, however, that we can take a look at the contract and see where it is. But the second motion that's been made, the timing seems a little off to me.
Okay. Roberta, I want to ask you, Roberta,
Yes.
I've got my hand up before you did, Roberta. I'm going to ask you if you could, without looking at your notes and without reading it back to me verbatim, would you summarize your motion?
Yes, sir, and I'd like to address maybe some of the comments as part of my second debate time period. But basically what I'm asked to do was, because we might not have a current contract, and I think that's our issue. We need to expedite getting something in writing from the current town website administrator, because I think the town is in trouble because we don't have anything in writing from this town website administrator. And that's the reason for both the motions. What is our current contract? And if there isn't one that exists, how quickly can we get one on the record? And what I'm asking for is that the current town website administrator submit a renewed contract outlining his services, specifically what he's going to offer us, or they're going to offer us, with fees, timeframes for that to be done, so that we know what's expected. In other words, they might be overwhelmed, and maybe that's why the work isn't getting done. And so how can we help them function better and meet our goals and needs with something in writing that he can, or that they can work with? And so can we.
Okay, thank you, Roberta. Point of order,
Yeah.
I literally forgotten the order. Did we already vote on the part about presenting the contract?
Yes,
We-
yeah,
Thank you.
this is just about the second part.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion that's on the floor right now? All those in favor of that? Oh. Fails. And
I'm very
Microphone.
disappointed in that, really am.
my microphone fell off, Roberta.
I think the town's in trouble. I think we
Okay.
need to act on it.
Point taken. Thank you, Roberta. Nina, do you have anything else on IRC?
No.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Tree Commission, is there no one from the Tree Committee in here? We do have a request from an individual. You should have it. Robert Nelson desires to serve on the Tree Committee. He's the only nominee that I have. So if anyone wants to put his name in nomination, Chris?
I'd like to nominate Robert Nelson to the Tree Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Tree Commission.
Tree Commission, thank you. Nina, would you do a roll call on this?
Yeah. All right, Mayor Vaughn,
Yes.
Zachary Morse,
Yes.
Chris Craig,
Yes.
Stormy Costanza,
Yes.
Roberta Mead Curry,
Aye.
George Owens,
Yes,
and myself, yes.
Thank you, Patty. Or Roberta, would you make the notification, and then Patty, let Roberta, I'm
Nina?
sorry.
Okay.
Nina, would you
Yeah.
make the notification, and Patty, would you let Nina know the expiration date of that term, okay? All right. Takes care of that. New business, this was left over from the other meeting. You should have a copy of the administrative policy. I believe that this administrative policy that I developed concerning meeting minutes is, from my perspective, definitely needed. The policy is fact-based, and I think that that was very evident if you took the time to read that. Its adoption, hopefully, will minimize any disagreements that some on this council may have voiced for the past 6 months or so. And I think it's a sound and fair policy that will greatly assist not only Nina, but also the committee secretaries, Zach, your secretary with Planning Commission, and those others. It would greatly assist them in documenting the town meetings. I urge its adoption so that we can move beyond past contentious discussions regarding meeting minutes. So you have the policy before you. Stormy, you had a question?
No.
Okay. George, you have a
I,
question?
I would like, before we take up motions on this, to have a discussion around the table. And I would like this also to hold true for other items on our agenda, because it's in my analysis of the last meeting, which went very long, that motions, amended motions are what took up the time. And so I think if we all discuss this and develop a consensus and then get a motion, if possible, would be a very good approach.
Storm?
Yeah, appreciate it, but I do believe that the rules as outlined get at that. And in fact, having discussion before defeats the purpose. That Robert's Rules was put together in a way that creates a set of rules that everyone can have their fair say if they come prepared, and that then things can proceed. That said, for the sake of comedy today, I would say we can have this discussion until rules are adopted.
Until what?
Until rules are formally adopted, which would need to be done by a 2/3 vote.
Any other? So I'm not
I have
sure
my
where
hand
we
up,
are.
sir.
I'm not sure where we are.
The suggestion was that we discuss
Oh.
prior to a motion.
And Roberta has her hand up.
Yeah, I see your hand, Roberta. I'll be right with you in a minute. I'm contemplating what Storm just said. Say it again, Storm.
I think that it probably would be good to have the discussion before the motion is made in this case until formal rules are adopted. Although technically we're operating under Robert's Rules and we should not be deliberating until a motion is made. And that because it would be changing the rules of order, it will require a 2/3 vote to adopt it.
Yeah. Roberta,
I could certainly make a motion to have the discussion before any other motions are made on this topic. And we have a nice discussion and fair and let everybody talk about this, because there's a lot of issues that I agree with, but there's a lot of issues I disagree with on this policy. I'd like to make a motion that a discussion take place prior to a motion either accepting or adopting this administrative policy 2024-001 for a period, let me strike that for the period. Gosh, I'm just trying to be thorough. Let me start over. Let me strike that and start over. I'd like to make a motion that the administrative policy 2024-001 have a discussion session where all members of this town council get to be heard twice as to why they are for or against the policy as presented tonight. May I have a second?
let me call for a second.
Okay, thank you.
I'm wondering if you're talking about the minutes, the document that's before us on the minutes, or on the other. It sounds like you're talking more about the deliberative.
I'm sorry, isn't this administrative policy 001 the meeting minutes?
It's the meeting minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The meeting minutes policy.
All right, is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
I want a time frame put in on this deliberation. Well, I don't want to be here until 10 o'clock discussing the merits from 7 different perspectives. So I would prefer that we set a time limit of not to exceed. I don't have a problem, Roberta, with 2 times, but I like to set a time limit on not to exceed 2 minutes times 2 times.
Is that a motion?
No, I'm just asking Roberta. That's a way you can add that into your motion.
Yes, sir. I'll accept your amendment to the motion to have a time-specific discussion limited to, I'm sorry, what did you say?
2 minutes.
2
2
minutes.
minutes per. When you have the floor, I'll give you 2 minutes, and you're only going to have the floor up to twice if you want it. Okay?
Agreed. I'll
Okay.
accept that amendment.
All right. Is there a second on that amendment motion? We have a second from George. Discussion on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment passes 6-1. Main motion. All those in favor of the main motion, raise your hand. Opposed? 6-1. All right. All right, so who wants to start this? George, you got the
Thank you very
floor
much.
one time.
I will be brief. I'd like to make it even briefer than I described, Mayor Vaughn. I believe, and I have a motion to that effect that I'm not going to give right now,
Okay, great.
that this policy is a good one, but it has a lot of parts in it. I've received 2 business days notice to read this and digest it. It came to us Thursday afternoon.
Didn't we get it last month?
We got in December. This
Yeah,
is
it was
from
in December,
Oh, pardon
George.
me, Pardon me.
Yeah.
In any event, my biggest issue at the moment is that this listed to go through all our committees and commissions.
Correct.
And I believe it would be a courtesy, an appropriate courtesy, to run this past all those committees and commissions before we deliberate further and get their responses. And see how the secretaries and the membership of all of those feel about how this is appropriate to their purposes. So that's all I got to say on it.
Okay,
And
thank
I'll
you.
offer a motion to
All
that
right.
effect at the end of this.
George, you're one down, okay? You're
And I'm
one down.
all I'm all down.
Okay.
I'm all out.
All right.
I'm all out.
All right, Roberta, you want to take a shot at it?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I do not approve the adoption of this tonight for several reasons. One, we've left off several commissions and committees on the list, which need to be added. And 2, I don't agree with some of the policies made. I think they're too limiting. I think they're not what I agree with. We have lots of information out there from the Ethics Commission. We have lots of information on state code, and we have lots of information from West Virginia Municipal League that we can follow. I think this policy is almost redundant because we have all those things that we should already be following, including Robert's Rules of Order. So I think some redundancy needs to be eliminated. And I think I agree with George. I think this needs to be postponed and sent to all the committees, even the committees missing on the list, for review and acceptance by them also. Thank you. That's round
Okay,
one
thank
for
you.
me.
Roberta, one down.
Thank you, sir.
One down. All right, who's next? Zach.
As a quick question, if I could, point of information, which committees Roberta thinks are missing?
Yeah, that's right. That's the question I have. Roberta, answer the question only. Which committees are not listed here or commissions?
Okay, we have the Human Rights Commission, the Building Commission, the Library Board of Directors.
When was the last
And-
time the Human Rights Commission ever met? I don't even know if we have one. We do,
That's in the.
okay. The
Point of-
Building Commission, yeah,
Point of information, I believe that's covered under number 12.
right.
Understanding
Other
and
standing.
Town Commission.
Look at number 12, Roberta, for me.
The number 12 was other standing and ad hoc town committees. I do not believe that the Human Rights Commission, the Building Commission are standing ad hoc town committees. They are commissions. And the Library Board of Directors is a totally different animal also.
Okay, that's splitting hairs, but that's okay. All right, anybody else? Chris? All right, Chris, you're
I
working
think
on number
that
1.
The gist of this is what has led, frankly, to a lot of heated discussions about minutes, Roberta. The gist of this is that minutes need to be actions and not opinions.
I believe you're supposed to be addressing that.
Roberta, let him finish.
That is what
Don't address me.
the minutes need to be. That is expressed very well in this policy. And boy, I think we need to move to it tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else? Storm?
Yeah, just briefly, I believe that this is comprehensive, well thought out, and a good guide. And I agree that it's important that the minutes reflect facts and not introduce bias. And I think that if we adhere to this policy, that will happen.
Anyone else? All right, the mayor has one, and that is this policy is based on Robert's Rules of Order. It's based on the West Virginia Ethics Commission, and it's based on West Virginia Code. It's not based on Greg Vaughn's theory of minute taking. All right, anybody else? Storm, you got your
Oh.
second one now.
No.
Okay. Okay, we're finished. All right, I've closed discussion. Storm,
I move to adopt the administrative policy governing meeting minutes as presented.
do I have a second on the motion to approve? Second for Chris, discussion on the motion to approve. Zach,
I'd like to entertain a motion to amend to accept the policy as presented with the addition of the Human Rights Commission, Building Commission, and Library Board of Directors to the list.
Second,
okay, wait a minute, Zach, Human Rights Commission, say them. what were
Human
you-
Rights Commission,
Okay,
the Building Commission,
okay,
and Library Board of Directors.
okay, so you're amending that motion. We have a second from Storm. Is that correct, Storm? Did you
Yeah.
I'll
second
second
that?
that.
Okay. Is there a, Chris, discussion on a motion to amend?
Concern with the library board because that is an inter-town
Yeah.
board, and I'm not sure that we can
It
exactly
doesn't fall under
dictate
our
that
jurisdiction.
policy. I'm wondering if you could withdraw
I'll-
the library.
I'll withdraw the Library Board.
and
of
would you
Directors.
consider adding the word commissions to what is currently number 12?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. That amendment passes 7-0. Main motion, all those in favor of the main motion, raise your hand.
I'd like to amend the main motion.
Main motion is
Yes,
to approve
like-
as presented.
I'd like to amend the main motion prior to vote.
Just took a vote.
I didn't take a vote. No, I didn't take a vote. We didn't take a vote. I was asking for the amendment, the main motion to be amended again.
We just took a vote on the main motion, it was just passed.
I didn't vote.
Well, I didn't see your hand go up, so I didn't count it.
I vote no then, sir, but I asked for it to be amended.
Okay, but we can't amend a motion after the motion's been passed. I called
Well,
for,
I tried
wait a
to
minute.
get your attention, and I'm sorry you're not paying attention to me, but I
I
asked
am
for the,
paying attention to you.
okay.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to the meeting minute policy just adopted, that this policy be vetted by all the commissions and committees listed on the policy, and we hear feedback from them on if they have any edits or revisions or complications to follow these rules. A second.
Okay, is there a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
All right. Discussion on the motion to vet to all of items, I guess, 1 through 12. We're going to send it to 1 through 12.
I think there's more than 1 through
on
12
a
now, 'cause we
policy
added
that
two.
on a policy that we've approved. We're going to get their feedback, and then we're going to make changes or whatever on a policy that we just approved. So is that what you're suggesting, Roberta?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay.
I-
Nita?
I guess I have an amendment to that, because if we are going to have, let me think of how to phrase it. If we're going to have committees and commissions review the policy, the only way we should make changes is if there's a majority from the committee or commissions that request the change. So I'm not sure how to phrase it. That's
Storm?
I believe we're the town council and we are the authority that passes these things. We can certainly consider and take the input of committees and commission. I believe it was well crafted. We have passed it. Of course, if there are things that come up, then it is within our power to amend them at that time.
Okay, any other discussion? Any other discussion on the motion? See, discussion is part discussion and motion. So you come up with a discussion.
It's a hybrid.
That's all right. Thank you, George. All right, so what we have before us is an amended motion that the policy will be vetted to all of these 12 things and get their feedback and et
I
cetera.
think it's just a motion, not an amended motion. So it's
Correct.
a motion
It's a
based on,
Fresh motion.
Okay,
yeah.
so it's a fresh motion. All
Yeah.
right. So we all know what the motion,
We do.
Yeah.
or demotion or whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, any discussion on the motion?
Have you asked for a second, sir?
You were the second.
You seconded.
I thought so.
Go ahead, Zach.
Clarification,
Sure. Go
you
ahead.
didn't- You started to voice an
I-
amendment? Or-
Canceled it out.
Yeah.
Or made a good point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not needed.
Okay. Any other discussion, George?
Yeah, I think this is a compromise sort of thing, and it's an act of consideration.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Wait, voting yes means,
Huh?
what does voting yes?
To send it to the.
We're
Got it.
sending it to the committee.
Okay.
for their opinion. That's what the vote is.
All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. We have one hand up. And Roberta, two. Opposed? Motion fails.
Okay.
All right,
Ridiculous.
thank you. Let's move to town reports. Chief, I'm sorry. Yeah. By the way, Chief, I want to commend the officers that were working during the storm. They were keeping me advised on things, so I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Good evening, council. I just want to give you the monthly report for December. We had 0 accidents, 1 call out, 1 assist. We had 48 citations, 200 calls for service, and that assist was with the sheriff's department. Any concerns or needs that need to be addressed with the police department at this point in time?
Just clarify, it was 200, what did you say?
Calls of service.
Calls of service.
Okay. Anything else for the chief? Chief, thanks for that. Chief, are you going to handle the next item?
That would be storm.
Yeah,
Chief, could you stay around for
Yes, sir.
storms? Go ahead, Storm, take the floor.
yes. So originally Melissa was going to present this. She's asked me to do so. So currently our phones are on US Cellular, and through looking at the contract renewal, realizing that there is a better network, AT&T FirstNet, which many first responder agencies are moving towards, including Jefferson County. And this action will, well, sorry, I'm not prepared. To change over our phone service to the new provider. And so Deb, do you have the paperwork provided?
So to clarify, all of our cellular phones are on US Cellular. We have some devices inside the police cars that hook up to county agencies that are with AT&T. AT&T provides a service called FirstNet to the county that keeps cellular connectivity, especially during times of crisis or low connectivity between the agencies. Those are the first priority communications that happen. We thought we were on that. We're not on it. We're endeavoring to take the US Cellular Police Department phones, move them to AT&T, get all of that equipment that's currently in the vehicles, and then the cell phones connected to FirstNet. And then when we get the radios in, what will happen is the radios will be on FirstNet, which will be on the phones. Everything will work synchronously with them as they patrol and do their jobs. So this action allows all of that to happen. It does leave us with a handful of phones on the US Cellular contract that we don't currently have assigned to personnel, which may or may not need them. It's actually, believe it or not, with the math involved, it's only going to cost us a couple $100 a year to transfer all the US Cellular PD phones over to AT&T and upgrade the hotspots inside the cars to make all this happen. And it will actually cost us money to disconnect the US Cellular phones. So there's a part of the motion that addresses that, just so you're aware. So the whole net activity really ends up only costing us a couple $100 a year.
For better service, and
Yeah.
it also includes the parking enforcement pads, everything, and also a more reliable network for Harpers Ferry.
And I'll also say that through this, we've been, Melissa's done a great job of working with AT&T and police department too. There've been a lot of conversations with AT&T about doing some things to improve connection service up and down our peninsula. So we're very hopeful that that will be fruitful.
Yeah, Chief, you're on board with this.
So yes, it's basically gonna give us a better service. If we had a 9/11 incident, we would have priority, service over, other services where they shut down communication. We would have first priority in dispatching and phone calls and then we relay the information.
I move to recommend that the Harpers Ferry Police Department, I move that the Harpers Ferry Police Department move its phone and Wi-Fi service to AT&T FirstNet and to put the disposition of the U.S. cellular phones under the administration of the mayor.
I second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Excuse me, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Thank you, Roberta. 7-0. Thank you, Chief. You can hang around or you can split. Okay, thanks, Chief. Ordinance, you have the report from Kevin. If there's any questions or any issues, let me know and I'll cross over to Kevin. Ordinance, that a budget and finance Storm, you've got a plethora of issues here.
Yes, well, these I am prepared for. So the first one, C1 on the Cobra headlight, I'm very pleased to report that our Potomac Edison liaison secured the necessary right-of-way for the project, which was what was needed to enable our work ticket to proceed to engineering. Engineering expects to have the Cobra light swapped out for one of our radial light fixtures before February's regular town council meeting, and they're not going to charge the town. And arrangements are being made for town hall to coordinate with Potomac Edison to complete the assignment. And I want to thank Potomac Edison for working with on this. Believe it or not, this is light speed for them. Oh, I actually did not intend that one.
And I also want to thank George for your diligence on this item.
Thanks, Greg.
I'm sorry, Zach.
Just a quick point of information. I know we have a couple of the radial fixtures floating around. Do we know that it's one that sort of was mounted to a pole and that
Correct.
we have the supplies to cover what
We do.
Okay.
We do.
yeah, thank you.
Oh, and it will be equipped per the original motion with one of the new type diffuse bulbs.
Great. Thanks.
Amen.
Roberta has a comment.
Roberta, go ahead.
2 points. I didn't hear Zach's question and I have something of my own, but Zach, your question was?
Something going on with the audio.
It sounds like we may have audio problems. Roberta, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was just asking if we had an extra radial wave fixture to replace the Cobra headlight with, and the answer was yes.
Yes, from what I understand, we have 3 in surplus. Real quick, Zach, not Zach, Storm. I'm looking at the calendar.
I'm sorry, Roberta. Please continue.
Okay, I'm looking at the calendar and I'm counting off the first 60 days and the second 60 days. So if the second 60 days is going to be our February 9 is what I'm calculating, but if we subtract or add in for holidays, whatever, I'm looking at February 12th for us to meet our 60-day motion that this project be completed. Do you need me to make a motion to add some more days to this project completion
Let me
date?
weigh in. I would say no. And if it doesn't happen within a certain period of time, you have permission to take the mayor and go outside and tar and feather him. I don't think we need a specific motion on this. We're just going to go by what Storm presented. It will be done. We don't, need to overly think and complicate this, Roberta.
I'm
will.
gonna go ahead and play it on the safe side, Mayor, if you don't mind.
I'm not hearing a word.
Because we have a motion on, we have an
Try to release
action
your audio.
that we gave it 60 days and we gave it another 60 days. So if it doesn't happen in that 60-day time frame, we're kind of in violation. So let me go ahead and give us an assurance policy, Storm and the mayor. I'd like to make a motion that we add another 30 days to this project schedule in hopes that the project is complete and the light is on, for another 30 days added to our timetable for completion.
Second on the motion.
If we
Last call,
don't meet,
last call, second on the motion.
please
Hearing
somebody
no
second that.
Motion fails.
May I,
All right.
you guys
Storm,
don't understand, if we don't meet the time frame, we're in violation of our own motions. Thank
Correct.
you.
Okay.
However, the meeting is happening, the February meeting is happening prior to the expiration of the 60 days that was provided, so it's premature to extend it at this point. We can extend it in February if needed, and we would not be out of compliance.
All right, Storm, take number 2.
C2, discussion and action
Disagree.
on fiscal year 24 waterworks budget revision. Deb?
So the changes for the budget revision number 1 proposed are in sum and summary on page 3, which is simply moving $600 from plant materials and supplies to plant maintenance supplies. Reason being that the public works administrator needed to replace an air conditioning unit that was in the office that was not part of the plant upgrade, and that sort of has put too much weight in that plant maintenance section. So for right now, we're just moving from one to the other. There will be more revisions as time goes on to address other things, but everything else is in line.
I move to approve the fiscal year 24 waterworks revision 1 as presented.
Second on the motion to approve. Second from George. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Does this need a roll call?
No, no, this is only general fund,
Only,
but
right.
good memory.
Okay.
Let me call it again. All those in favor, George, your hand up. Okay, 7-0, motion passes. Storm?
Item 3, you can see that in the report. Item 4, WDA grant. I believe the email went out around this, but there was a budget and finance presentation made by the chair and finance officer about the current status of the WDA grant application for the waterworks distribution project. It was also attended by the public works administrator and the chair of the water commission to share their insights. And we will be arranging that special meeting in order to effectively lock down a one-time unique $2.4 million grant opportunity for which we need to provide the matching funds. So that's just the update on that.
Thank you, Storm. Number 5.
Also just an update, more details are in the report, but we did receive our first opioid settlement check out of nowhere. And Nina is the recorder. Armstrong is has been the liaison to this. And she is going to prepare a list of recommendations to present to town council.
Yeah, that was presenting at the February meeting. I'm working on setting up a time to speak with the Bolivar representative regarding some potential for collaborating. And so I'll be presenting that at the February meeting. And I do believe we have a motion that we need to put forward to be able to receive the funds.
Right, and that's in, talks about it in, I think, the paragraph almost to the end of the first page about setting up a bank account specifically for these funds.
Yeah, so I guess we just be okay to say motion to approve the creation of a bank account to accept the funds for the WDA. I'm
No,
sorry,
oh,
the
sorry.
opioid settlement funds.
Yes.
Wrong line item.
Right.
Second.
Roberta has her hand up.
Roberta, go.
Before I get to Roberta, there's several requirements in here, Nina, not only to open a special banking account, but there's several other very specific requirements that we need to consider that are required by the state. And opening the account is only one of those requirements. So I'm sure that that you're on top of this. Let me just say before I get to Roberta, Nina, I'm thinking that, and I'm sure you've gone through this. We need a little group to get together, okay? And I would suggest you consider that keep you no more than 3. I'm thinking that obviously with your interest in this and your oversight that you would serve as a chairperson for this, I think there should be a representative from the Harpers Ferry Police Department. And my reason for that is one of the most objective ways, Roberta, put your hand down. I know you want to speak. One of the most objective things that that we can spend the money on is for law enforcement things. That's really, as I went through that list many times, that's the one that really only jumps out at us as the most objective one that we can do it. So I'm thinking it would be good to have a member of HFPD on there. I'm also thinking, Nina, if you haven't thought of it, that if we have a counselor or a health specialist who's a resident of Harpers Ferry, I have someone that I'll share the name with you privately. You may want to consider, because I was reading all of the possible ways to spend money. A lot of them deal with training, education, all those types of things that fall outside of our jurisdiction. We don't have hospitals and medical facilities and health clinics in Harpers Ferry, but we do have them in the surrounding area. We don't have schools in Harpers Ferry, but we do have in the surrounding area. And I was talking with Debbie yesterday, I think, or last week, we have to make sure that we have the authority to spend these monies outside of the municipality. I mean, and by that I mean, do we have the authority to gift money to, let's say, a school system or some type of education program that we were given by the state? Is it the state's expectation that those monies are spent in the confines of the corporation? I think we need to get it, a little bit more on that.
That is outlined, that there is collaboration with neighboring communities.
That we can actually turn over the check. Okay.
Yeah, I think, but it has to fall within the purview
Right.
of the programs that they've outlined to be acceptable for those funds.
Okay. Roberta?
Mayor Vaughn, you read my mind.
I did.
Yes, sir. You got exactly what I was going to ask for, an ad hoc committee. I agree with the medical professional being on that committee wholeheartedly, and the police chief or someone designated from the police department. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I think that's perfect. The other question I had was, do we know, I did a calculation on this a long time ago and gave that information to Budget and Finance. Do we know how much we actually are going to receive?
How much what, Roberta?
How much funds? How many dollar amount?
No, I think it's going to depend on the, we've got 7, do we not, Patty? How many did we get? 6 or 7 settlements. Each settlement, Roberta, I believe, is going to be different, and they're going to have different formulas and calculations. So there's no set figure. So what we got from TEVA, T-E-V-A, I believe, is probably going to be different than what we're going to get from Walmart.
Right, and I understand that, and Storm, I don't know if you want to share this eventually, but I did prepare the spreadsheet. We're only going to get, and I did all of the opioid things, and I would like this verified. I sent a spreadsheet that said we're only going to get $38,000. So I just want to know if that.
So we know how much we're going to get.
Yeah, this Recorder Armstrong had been attending the meetings of this, and this just dropped out of the sky without preamble. The amount, just the check appeared.
Yeah, we just
So
got a
we
check
can't-
showed up at our door.
So there's really no practical way. The work you did on that is appreciated. There's no practical way for us to predict what's coming next.
Chris?
Okay.
Along with the police, Harpers Ferry Police, even though our emergency services have largely been taken over by the county, I still think it would be great to invite the fire company to.
Okay. Nina's making notes on that.
Yeah, definitely more than happy to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Should we put a motion to that effect? Because we heard.
No, this.
Yeah,
Right. So the motion on the floor is just the bank
the
account.
bank account.
Yeah. Is there, okay, any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Oh, do we have a second on that?
That was mine.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ben.
I'm sorry, Roberta, there you go. Okay, go ahead, Storm, on number 6.
Number 6, replacement of a computer for the financial office. The finance officer presented a request to upgrade her office's computer, which was the only one not updated back in 2018. And which was the newest one at that time, and now it's getting a little longer too. The recommendation was made to purchase a new desktop computer from Advantage Technologies. Notably, we did discuss other purchase options, but it was determined that the service that comes along with purchasing it through Advantage Technologies makes it the best value. So I'm moving to recommend allocating up to $2,300 out of 440 City Hall capital outlay equipment to replace the financial office desktop computer and to investigate and clarify warranty options.
Second on the motion, second from Chris, discussion on the motion. Go ahead, Roberta. Go ahead, Roberta. You froze?
Oh, yeah.
I have no
Alright.
discussion.
If I just change the motion, I'm just moving, not moving to allocate. I copied from my budget and finance documents.
Okay. Are we good to go for other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion? It looks like 6-0 and okay, well, it's counted as 6-0. Go ahead, number 7, Storm.
This is AV equipment for town hall conference room. This is to set up this room with a single, simple to use computing device that all committees and commissions can use to run Microsoft Teams and to record the meetings directly onto this device, which will allow the recorder to much more efficiently put these on the public record, and also for remote to participate in this single device. After some discussion, we determined that a Google Chromebook would be the best option. It's relatively inexpensive. It will absolutely do what we need it to do. Some other platforms would not, and it is high quality. So I move to allocate up to $1,000 out of 440 City Hall capital outlay equipment to purchase a computing device to facilitate town meetings.
We have a second on the motion. We have a second from Zach. Discussion on the motion to allocate up to $1,000 out of 440. Roberta?
Yes, Storm, give me some more information, please, on the equipment. Will this include microphones for better audio
I believe
hearing?
that Deb has been doing the research on the technology integration. I believe it'll be the same audio system that can work with this device.
Correct. You will use the same microphones that we're using now and the same speaker device, which, I mean, you haven't seen yet since you haven't been here, but we adjusted to and has improved the audio tremendously.
No, and I thank you, Debbie, because it has improved, and I'm glad that everybody has a little microphone, and it has improved tremendously. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for reorganizing the room and the camera and everything. And I hope to be there within a week. I think our car is going to be ready, but I miss being there in person. So thank you for all the changes made to make the audio more audible. Okay, great.
Okay, thanks, Roberta. So we have any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? 7-0. Storm?
This is discussion and action on expenses for Canal Town Park. Oh, sorry. Number 8, that's in the report. Discussion and action on expenses for Canal Town Partnership meeting at the Mather Training Center. Chris, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have to spend much, but I'm gonna have to buy some water. So I don't think it's gonna be $50, but barring some kind of last minute need, I would like to request that authorization up to $50.
I'll do the full one. I think the motion is going to be longer than the dollar amount, but move to allocate and distribute up to $50 from 402 Economic Development to Chris Craig on behalf of Canal Town's Partnership for the purchase of refreshments for the Canal Town Partnership public meeting at the Mather Training Center upon receipt of the appropriate documentation.
Second.
Okay, discussion on the motion.
A lot of words.
A lot of water. Debbie?
So what will happen is Chris, is going to just act on behalf of them and provide a receipt for anything, and then he will be reimbursed.
Okay. It's worded that way, so we're not just
Yep.
giving money to some
Right.
dude.
And again, the expenses for this,
Yeah, he said it's on.
are so low because we're getting donations
Right.
from two of the town businesses.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 7-0, thank you. Number 10, I guess, Storm.
Yes. So Parks and Rec presented its vision. This is for the inaugural Harper's Ferry Film Festival. And up to you, Patty, if you want to speak to it more. The Parks and Rec presented its vision for the first of what is hoped to be an annual film festival. It was reported that interest in the event is already high, both within the town and beyond. After discussion, the committee agreed that it was an exciting opportunity that merited the use of public funds. Outside sponsors will also be sought to fund the event, and it is anticipated that not all of the funds will be spent. So I move to allocate up to $3,000 out of 906 Arts and Humanities to Parks and Rec for an inaugural Harper's Ferry Film Festival to be held in March of 2024.
Second on the motion, second from Zach. Discussion on a motion to approve up to $3,000 out of 906. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? I don't know. Roberta-
She voted for it. I think she had a sneeze.
Okay.
Oh, never mind.
7-0. Number 11, Storm.
Discussion and action on the fiscal year 2025 budgeting process. So the committee discussed this annual process, which involves hearing and vetting funding requests from both internal and external groups. And it ends when we lay the levy on April 16th as mandated by state law. And this is that Arts and Humanities and Economic Development, those are the funds we're talking about, the ones where,
An internal one.
and internal, but it's, yes. So is this the first time that this council is going through this process?
Yeah.
On the front end? It is. So there are a series of meetings that take place, and this will be going out email, but there's going to be the week of February 9th, internal and external organizations will need to supply their requests to the finance officer. And then Budget and Finance is going to meet with those folks asking for funds on February 20th here in Town Hall to hear the requests. And on February 26th, Budget and Finance will go over the requests and make all of the fiscal year 2025 recommendations. And then there will need to be a meeting with Town Council to approve the recommendations or alter them. And then that glides us up to the lay of the levy when we submit the entire budget to the state auditor's office.
So please mark your calendars now. Town Council for April 16th mandatory meeting. It is a Tuesday, the third Tuesday of April every year, and we must have a quorum.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you, Storm. Okay, Water Department, you have the yeah. Steve has a report that Patty is giving out. I have a copy, Patty, so I don't need a copy.
And Roberta, I emailed it to you this evening.
Council, if you have any questions on this, feel free to reach out with Steve or reach out to myself. Water Commission report, Mike, do you have anything? Outstanding. You want to see the game too, huh? Parks and Rec, Patty?
Down your info street, and I'm so sorry, for 2019.
Point of order, we need a microphone.
Don't cut her any slack.
Nope.
Thank you. Yeah. Is it on? Okay, thank you. Good evening, Town Council. For Article 140.08, I'm going to deliver to you tonight the 2023 annual report for Parks and Recreation, and I gave Dina a copy for the record. For the first time in years, the commission consists of 5 members who are all residents of Harper's Ferry. The 2023 December year-end bank statement for Parks and Rec shows a balance of $2,325.41 in the checking account. As a result of a grant application submitted to Jefferson County Youth Board in April, Harpers Ferry Parks and Rec received $588.34 towards the Children's Park renovation project. We also received $950 in donations to the Children's renovation project from neighbors and businesses, which I'll highlight later in the report. The commission organized 10 events in 2023. The year started off with our annual Easter egg hunt on April 8th. The event was well attended, and we had approximately 30 children find 300 candy-filled eggs, and then every child also got a small stuffed animal. We celebrated Earth Day on April 22nd with a cleanup effort at the Children's Park. We had over 50 volunteers show up to help clean the vines and the growth off the chain link fence, and thereafter install a green mesh screening. We also started the project of installing the pavilion, which took many weeks following thereafter, but it is done and it's beautiful. Music on the Ridge was held on June 3rd. The event location was moved to Storer College lawn to accommodate a larger crowd. In doing so, we increased our event spending on the sound setup. Unfortunately, we were unable to charge an entrance fee because we utilized the Park Service property. However, positive feedback we received was well worth it. Many families attended this event, and it was great to see the children gather and enjoy the day as well. In September, Parks and Rec planned a community yard sale. However, that event was canceled due to lack of participants. In October, we introduced a new event, the Scarecrow Contest. 12 homes participated in this event. A trophy was awarded for the most original scarecrow, the funniest scarecrow, and the best in show. The event generated a lot of positive energy throughout the town and among the residents, and we're looking forward to adding this event in 2024. Art in the Park took place on October 28th. We had approximately 30 children come and paint pumpkins and participate in the craft. The craft this year was the creation of a paper lantern, which we did in conjunction with the Bolivar Light Parade that they held. So we did have some residents here participate in that parade with the lanterns that they made. It was very cool. And then we had about 30 children. That seems to be our magic number now. Stop at the gazebo on Halloween night and get some treats. November 4th brought the second Great Pumpkin Roll Contest. We had 51, both young and younger residents or registered contestants, roll pumpkins down Columbia Street towards the target. We had a first, second, and third place winners in each category, both youth and adults. Prizes were donated by River Riders, the Vintage Lady, Meadows Farms, True Treats Candy, the Village Shop, and Harpers Ferry Bookstore. The event was very successful due to the volunteers who worked really hard in putting all these details together. The MC for the day, Storm DeCostanza, brought much enthusiasm out of the crowd, with approximately 100 people cheering on our contestants. The event brought in $406 in registration fees and donations, and those proceeds were earmarked for the Children's Park renovation project. The town Christmas tree lighting took place on October 29th with approximately 40 people in attendance. The annual event takes place each year just prior to the first night of Old Time Christmas. We served hot chocolate and cookies this year. And then this year, we concluded our events with the Cookie Walk, which was held on December 9th. We just brought this back from COVID, so we weren't sure where we were going, but we've had a fantastic turnout. We sold all the cookies out within an hour and a half. 13 residents donated the homemade cookies for this event. The town hall's first floor empty space was transformed into a holiday cookie shop with coffee and hot chocolate also for sale. The proceeds in the amount of $402.50 will also go towards the Children's Park project. In 2023, we began the planning for the first film festival. And it got a slow start. We didn't think this was going to go anywhere, but in the last 2 months, this is really, really taking off. So thank you for allocating some funding for this. We did not put it in our budget because we had dropped it, but we have more information forthcoming shortly. Now, in addition to all of those events that we organized, 2023, we spent a lot of time and energy on the Children's Park renovation project. Improvements during the year consisted of removing the remaining old asphalt, weeding and removing the front iron fence. We trimmed the shrubs. We installed the green privacy screening on the chain link fence. The spinning wheel was dismantled, sanded, painted, and new bearings were installed for a smoother ride. The 12-foot by 24-foot pavilion was built with a tremendous team of volunteers. The pavilion was purchased with existing funds in our checking account, along with matching funds from the town council. Total cost of the pavilion was $4,000 just for the kit. There was additional expenses for the footers, the cement, and other things, but we did a pretty good job on that one. Fundraising efforts from the GoFundMe account paid for the green privacy screening. There is a balance of $6,440 in the GoFundMe account that will go for the main play structure. So with the addition of the GoFundMe funds, to take advantage of a 50% off sale, on October 30th, the town council graciously voted to allocate additional funding for the play structure. We were able to purchase a $24,000 structure that does not include shipping and installation. But the same structure after October 31st is now selling for $50,000. So we made a huge savings by being very proactive on that. A late January delivery is anticipated with installation in the spring. And then we have one more exciting announcement regarding that park, and that is Tommy Van Vliet has been working diligently with a group called Leadership Jefferson. Out of 6 applications for assistance on a project which impacts the community, Leadership Jefferson chose our park. The project goals surrounding our decision, or their decision to choose us, is we're going to make the park handicap accessible by hiring a paving contractor to widen the existing brick walkway, correct the grade, and modify the sidewalk, and work with us to put a ground covering under the pavilion. And then other additions would be to help beautify the park with flower beds. This work will be done by volunteers of Leadership Jefferson, and they will provide the necessary fundraising to cover the cost of all these projects. So this will not come out of our pocket. We will also have, we'll work in tandem with them on the design and what we want to do, but they're going to take the lead in getting these things done for us. And finally, in October, the town council made a motion that Town and Trail Alliance Group work with Parks and Rec to regularly review the progress of the trail development project. Representatives from Town and Trail Alliance have been attending our monthly meetings, and this has been a very great partnership. So we are looking forward to announcing and launching some new ideas in the coming months. I do have a breakdown of the donations and all the funding. I would not like to read that out loud, but Nina does have those numbers, and I can send this all to the council if you would like to see all the fundraising activity that we've done. That concludes my report. Thank you. Any questions?
Chris, thanks for all your work.
You're welcome.
Chris.
Yeah,
It's
big
fun.
thank you. I also think is it already in a written form that can be distributed?
What, my report?
Your report?
Absolutely. I'll email,
Yeah, I just think,
email
know,
it to you tomorrow.
I don't know whether the town website or Facebook page or somehow, but I think a lot of townsfolk would be
That's a lot.
interested in.
I mean, when I was working on this and I sent it out to the other members, they all went, wow.
Yeah.
So there has been a lot of work and a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of volunteers.
It's one of the most exciting things is when you have people coming together. And
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, so it's very
30
positive.
children at 30 children at every event.
We're pulling them in. And these are, most of them are residents. We have a lot of children in town now. So when that structure gets in place, it's gonna get a lot of use. So thank you.
Well, Patty, let me just say that I have spoken to you privately many times and complimented you on what you do personally for the town through the Parks and Rec. And I really want to extend my personal thanks, not only to you, but to Zach sitting to my left, and Holly and Avery and Wayne for everything that you do on Parks and Rec. And I think the interesting thing about the Parks and Rec under your leadership is the diversity of things that you do. You know, you got arty kind of things, you got the fun kind of things, you've got the filmy kind of things. I mean, you cross the gamut. I mean, it's just not one type of event that you go after. I mean, you go from cookies to pumpkins to, you know, who knows what. But thank you,
You're
Patty,
welcome.
and thanks to your four assistants who you are making a difference, by the way, in Harper's Ferry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Roberta?
Mayor, thank you for that, and I follow that, and I repeat and ditto everything he just said. Patty, your group, your organization, your go-to attitude has made Harper's Ferry a happy place for many people. I commend your team and I commend your volunteers, and let's continue the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you.
Landmarks, is there anyone who has a
Yeah,
landmark?
present landmarks here. We welcome to do member to landmarks, Kayla McAteer. And she received an extensive and very articulate update brought to speed by Steve Fury. We also continued our work on developing a rubric for applying the standards of A. The words lost me.
Of A,
Appendix A.
appendix A.
Yes, there we go. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for George? Okay, thanks, George. Planning, Zach?
Yeah, very briefly, we met once this past month. Continue working on the comprehensive plan. We said goodbye to Ken Dill, who was a former member of planning. He decided not to renew his position. We just said hello to Joe Keaton, so we'll introduce him to everything at our next meeting. We had an interesting discussion. The biggest discussion we had actually at our last meeting was. No, sorry.
We
Oh,
haven't,
We haven't.
we haven't voted.
We haven't voted
Yeah,
on Joe.
Joe was in the room and I brain jumps. Yes.
Persistence of memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did say hello in the room.
Good comeback, Zach.
Yes.
Proud of you.
So the thing we talked about the most at our last meeting was actually item brought up from a citizen about our fee schedules for new construction or large renovations. I think the same thing may have ended up with Budget and Finance when we coordinate a response, but we're looking into that and we'll have more soon.
Oh,
Storm?
it got brought to us that planning had determined it was not within their purview. So Budget and Finance, we currently have it in process, and
I'm
Recorder
doing-
Armstrong is doing research right now.
So we, for the record, Planning Commission had a motion that we would look into it and determine if it was within our purview, but we hadn't determined it's not.
Okay.
So
Kind of both doing
we're
the
both
same
doing the
thing.
same
Oh,
thing.
good.
I'm sure we'll come to
Town council meetings.
either way, it'll end up with a discussion here, and I think everyone's going to be on the same page. But more on that soon. And if it determines that we determine Planning Commission is not the place for it, then it's good that it's in the right place. So, or
All good.
a place, yes. With that, can we move to?
We're going to move now to Joe.
Oh, question though.
Yes.
You had mentioned last month that there would be a late January meeting with WVU on the comprehensive plan. Is that going to happen?
Yes, it is, and I don't remember the date off the top of my head. But there is a late January meeting. Our next regular meeting, I believe, is next week, and then, I don't have that in front of me. There's a late January meeting. I can email that out.
Okay.
But that would be specifically to talk about the comprehensive plan.
Okay, great.
Okay, planning number 2, discussion action on appointment to the planning commission. You want me to handle that, Zach? Do you want to take it?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay. We have an individual who expressed an interest in serving on the planning commission, so the chair will accept any nominations from the floor to fill a vacancy. Zach?
I'll nominate Joe Keaty to fill the vacancy on planning.
Okay. This is going
I'll
to do
second
a
that.
roll call. Nina, would you do a roll call? By the way, any other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, we have one nominee that has been nominated. Do the roll call for me, Nina.
Yeah. Greg Vaughn,
Yes.
Zachary Morris,
Yes.
Chris Craig,
Yes.
Stormy Costanza,
Yes.
George Owens,
Yes.
Roberta Mead Curry,
Yes,
and myself, Nina Armstrong, yes.
Okay. Nina, would you also make the official notification on that one for me? And then get with Patty for the expiration of that.
Yep.
Thanks for Nina. Jeez.
It's because our heads are right
Yeah,
next to each other.
That's what it is. They're so close together. Okay, so we deferred H1 and 2, correct?
We did.
correct.
Okay.
Hallelujah.
So now I can move to 7I, Parking Committee report. Who's handling that? Would you,
All right, and I have Patrick with me, so we're both here to answer questions. So, welcome. The parking committee is now a standing committee, so please know that we are experienced in all matters of managing our parking system for residents, day visitors, and overnight guests. We are tasked with developing, implementing, and with police enforcing our parking ordinances and policies. Do you remember this committee offers advice and recommendations to the town council on policies and recommendations. We do not have the authority to approve policies, only the town council does. We're not perfect, but we listen. As longtime volunteers, we aim to improve our parking management for our town each year, and we noted some disagreements with our 2024 parking policies from some members of the town council at the December meeting. Therefore, we held a special parking meeting last week to address the point of view of those town council members who had strong opinions. We tried to understand their points of view, so we decided to seek a wise compromise by revising our 2024 parking policies as it relates to the short-term rentals and bed and breakfast businesses located in the residential zone. We are seeking a fair compromise that should resolve most of the issue over the potential loss of parking revenue on Washington Street. It might not be perfect now, but we aim to study the issue over the year and come up with further changes if it's warranted. The short-term parking issue came from a request from our police department in early 2023, who were having problems with parking enforcement on Washington Street. After our late December parking meeting, we decided all short-term rental hosts without on-site parking along Washington Street need to have their guests use their green hang tags for parking on Store College Place and the portion of the 700 block of Fillmore Street fronting the Old Fellows Lodge, Haller Lodge. This is relocating short-term rental parking to the least used parking zone in our system. That's 7510. You can see the numbers on our signs. There's 3 zones in our town. In the past 6 weeks, per Park Mobile, this zone has represented 9% of our paid parking revenue. The most is Potomac Street, just by the way, at 74%. Keep in mind that zone 7510 includes Washington Street from Franklin Street to Jackson Street intersections, Fillmore Street, and the Store College Place. We do not have the ability to break out the Washington Street revenue from that zone. But from our personal observations over the years, Store and Fillmore parking is barely used. We feel that parking guest vehicles on those 2 streets will open more potential parking spaces on Washington Street for additional potential revenue. Do remember that we have 5 to 6 short-term rentals B&Bs located on the residential side streets that are now using the hang tags for their guests. This helps the police with enforcement on those streets and provides additional parking revenue that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. The parking committee must balance the parking needs of our residents and visitors. We think we have made a strong effort to compromise our policy, and we think it resolves the revenue issues in question. So we ask the town council to approve our 2024 parking policies.
Christian, would you, or, I guess, if you've got the chair, would you go over the changes you and
Sure.
Patrick?
So I think you should have a copy there. So we changed number 3. I don't know if you have that there, but we said note that this guest hang tag program does not apply anywhere on Washington Street. And that's the green tags we're talking about. The other change we made was on F. Guests of short-term rentals and B&Bs located on Washington Street with no off-street parking may use the guest hang tags to park in Park Mobile zone locations off Washington Street, specifically on Store College Place or the portion of 700 block Fillmore Street fronting the Odd Fellows Hall. Otherwise, guests choosing to park on Washington Street are required to pay the standard parking rate from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that's the 2 changes we made in the other one. Now, keep in mind that most people, I am a B&B owner. The short-term rentals normally check-in is at 3 o'clock. Most guests don't check in usually until 4 or 5, maybe 6. Saturday, sometimes they're parked there all day. Sometimes they're out about town. Who knows? They're going for lunch or dinner or something like that. Then on Sunday, they usually check. Almost all the places are the same at about 11 o'clock. It doesn't mean they have to check out by 11 o'clock, but most check out earlier to get them back. So I'm just telling you how many hours it is. That's all we changed.
Okay. Let me ask Patrick if you have anything to add before I open up discussion.
All right.
Thank you. So the one thing that I would add is that under this modified proposal where short-term rentals and B&B guests of establishments along Washington Street would only park on Store College Place or the 700 block of Fillmore Street, that in addition to that, we are proposing or suggesting that the council consider taking 5 spots that are currently painted on Fillmore Street that are in front of the park headquarters and making those paid parking. And that would offset any of the guests that are parking along the 700 block of Fillmore or Store College Place. Now, people may say, well, that's in a residential neighborhood. Maybe we don't want to go there, putting more parking in a residential neighborhood. Well, if a resident has a residential parking permit, they could park there. If they have a guest that has the guest permit, they could park in the paid parking zone. If they have a B&B guest that has an appropriately issued green hang tag, they could park in these new 5 spots along Fillmore Street. So any questions about that?
Okay. Questions, Zach?
Are those 5 spots in the town right away or in the national park? Well, if there is an openness to the town considering this, I think we would need to definitively make that determination. The 5 spots that I'm talking about are right in front of the park headquarters. There are another maybe 6-ish further down that are definitely on the park right away. We're not talking about doing anything with those. Thank you. Now you may have the question, well, what about parking for the Park Service? They have parking adjacent on a paper street. They have very few vehicles that park there. I'll also add that on the weekends, out of town people, because I walk around town and I see the license plates, they're already parking there for free. So we would be imposing a requirement on out of state personnel, out of state visitors that are currently getting a free ride with them.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yep.
Let me
Oh,
just
sure.
ask.
Is that
any-
part of what was, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me at the moment. Is that part of what's being proposed right now?
Yeah.
Or-
Yes, you don't need to decide on the 5 extra. We want you to consider that.
Got
And if so, we could do some more due diligence about the extent of how far the right of way goes
Yeah, that's-
into, right,
The only real.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as a courtesy, we should put the Park Service on notice that this is our intention before installing any signage.
Okay, council, any questions of clarification for what the parking committee is proposing? Roberta? Question or
Yes.
clarification?
Both, sir.
Okay.
If I may.
Which one you gonna do first?
I guess it's kind of both. I'm gonna ask a question for the clarification. So my question is, and it's kind of like Zach's, where exactly again are these parking spaces you're proposing? I know there's parking spaces perpendicular to Fillmore Street, and I'm gonna use the point of reference in front of the Carrot Top, what's called as the Carrot Top B&B. Is that where you're talking about?
So those parking spots that you're referencing that are perpendicular to Fillmore Street are totally on Park Service land. I'm not talking about those spots. What I'm talking about are spots that are, let me get my directions right, west, about a half a block west, that are parallel and are already lined right in front of the Park Service headquarters facility.
Yeah.
And where is the Park Service headquarters on Fillmore Street? Is that near the graveyard?
Moral
House.
House.
The Morrow House, no, further up, further east.
Near the intersection with Columbia.
Correct.
Sorry, further west.
Columbia, okay, okay, okay.
All right,
I
what's
know
your
where
other
you're going.
question, Roberta?
Okay, and if I'm understanding what you're presenting tonight is the revisions to the policy, you have stricken the hang tag opportunity for any and all B&Bs along Washington Street. Is that correct?
So the hang tags would only be valid if it is for a B&B or short-term rental on Washington Street. The green hang tags would only be valid on Storer College Place or the 700 block of Fillmore adjacent to the Oddfellows Lodge.
Okay, and if they were to park on Washington Street, they are to pay through Park Mobile and pay the full price.
Pay full
Correct.
freight or get a ticket.
Correct.
Okay, understand. And last question, thank you, Mayor. These 5 spaces in the future, is there a way to add a zone number 4
Yes,
to
yes.
Park Mobile for this?
yes,
And how quickly can that happen?
very
Do we know?
quickly.
Couple weeks.
Okay, great, awesome. I love it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Other questions, clarification, Zach?
So this is a grammatical question clarification. In town, well, in the policy, it refers to on a few pages residentially zoned parking, which we know to mean the 7520 and 7510 parking zones. But the phrase residential zoning can also refer to the residential versus commercial zoning of blocks in town. So just for clarification, I would suggest that perhaps we specifically say zones 7520 and 7510 every time zone is mentioned, which is on page 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Just to make it specific.
Right, so
Yeah.
right now, council has this draft, and of course, any changes you want to make to it.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to go back to the committee. Oh, sorry.
Well, that might, I don't know about that, because now we're a standing committee. See, before we were an ad hoc committee and we had to do things, we could do things on the fly. But I think now we got to be a little more careful. We have a meeting on the 25th.
Yeah, that's something that will take, you could take Zach's thing up on the meeting.
I just don't want the whole thing going into
yeah.
the blender here.
Yeah,
We can't,
yeah. Okay,
But
George, you has your hand up.
not for clarification, I was waiting for discussion.
Okay,
And I was going to make a suggestion, as we did previously, that for comedy, I like that with an I, not an E, and a T. I'd make a motion to allow discussion before motions.
I'll second that motion.
I wonder,
I'll-
I don't want to take forever on this motion. Believe me, I want to move things along.
Yeah,
What's the other?
no, I'm just thinking,
No, okay.
never mind.
All right, is there a second on the motion?
Second,
All right, we're gonna imply, stupid, Greg. It's not imply. We're going to, I'm going to insist that we consider the same time limits and number of times speaking.
Sure.
You up twice, you got 2 minutes per shot. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All right. All right, we're open for discussion. George, here's your first shot, George. I'm keeping track.
Okay, thank you. And I want to say that thank you for the compromise language and changes to Park Committee. Thank you also for the comprehensiveness of this. There's a lot of moving parts. Boom. I want to lay on the table where I believe we need to make a change, and it's a serious consideration. What we've done with regard to the hang tags is kick the can down the road, literally and figuratively, on the hang tag rate, and I want to address that this evening. The hang tag rate I'm going to discuss in terms of day, not packages of 10 or 20 or anything like that. I'm just going to go apples to apples. The hang tag rate gives a parking space for a commercial bed and breakfast or a short-term rental that is on public right-of-way. It's allowed for 66 cents a day. A tourist parking during the parking period on public right-of-way in one of our metered zones pays $20 a day. The difference is great. It's enormous. 30 times less than the full rate that a tourist pays. One tourist stays at Christian's or another place, bed and breakfast, they pay 66 cents. The tourist comes for the day, spends 20 bucks.
30 seconds left, George.
Now, I'd like to engage this group in my first comment here to come up with a figure that is fairer than 66 cents to the town and the residents. I can propose the $20, and I'll propose that. We can do the math to translate it to what it means for a package of tags, a 3-day, a 2-day. Let's decide on a rate.
10 seconds.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
also let's knock the residential rate down from $5 to $1.
Okay, thank you, George.
Thank you.
Storm.
Thank you for your work on this on the whole. I think these are reasonable compromises, particularly one taking the traffic off of Washington Street. I don't believe that this is really going to take away meaningful revenue, in part because the parking will occur in areas currently aren't high volume. And I've seen it with my own eyes, just about check-in times, check-out. Also, I believe that these folks that run the bed and breakfasts and the short-term rentals are part of our community. And that I think that it is deserving of some consideration. Also, that these are businesses, but that by doing this small thing to help facilitate them drive revenue for the town. In short, I think it's good for the town that these are members of our community. And I feel like this is a small thing that we can do. We did look at the cost of the tags, and the program, I don't believe, costs the town anything. In fact, it may be a moneymaker. And so I'm in favor of this as it's been amended.
Thank you, Storm. Roberta, you had your hand up next, and then Chris.
yes, thank you, Chair. I appreciate the amendments to the policy, also eliminating the Washington Street situation where the town was losing thousands of dollars of revenue. I want to understand, though, that the town is not going to lose revenue in the future. So I propose that if this is a tourist town, we act like a tourist town. Anywhere I go in a tourist town, I pay full price for parking, whether it's Park Mobile or whether it's the parking garage I have to pay for down the street to my bed and breakfast, or parking on the street to my bed and breakfast or hotel parking. I have to pay full price, anywhere from $50 on up. $20 a day or $2 an hour is not very much for our tourists to pay. And I hope that these parking spaces along Storer College and along Fillmore or wherever else we're going to propose still is full price. We do not offer a discount at all to anyone. They pay full price. We are a town needing funds, and we have to have these funds to survive. We have water pipes that need to be fixed, etc. So if I would hope that the bed and breakfast hand tags go away altogether, and you're able to put the Park Mobile Zone in, and that Park Mobile Zone pays full price. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Regarding full price, I question, Roberta, whether you've ever stayed at any kind of lodging where you had to pay $2 an hour.
Point of order, I believe
Of
you're to address
parking.
the chair, not
And-
me.
And if you'll let me continue,
Roberta, he has the chair.
I want to remind everyone that these guests in the lodging are all already paying Harpers Ferry sales tax. The businesses are paying a B&O tax. I don't have those dollar figures from
Over $200,000.
so over 200,000 we're getting from that business.
Well, not all that 200,000, but
I thought. And so I think that's important to keep in mind. Also, the fact that there's no charge for parking in Bolivar. And I think by going too overboard on charges for parking for B&B, innkeeper, in guests, we risk losing a lot of that business to our neighbors. So
Thank you, Chris. Any other? Zach? Get you down here, Zach.
Just in a slightly different vein, for the residential parking, I got some numbers from Verlissa and sent them out to everybody. The material cost to the town to have the residential stickers printed was 75 cents per sticker. We only had 99 or 100 people participate in that program last year. So I would strongly suggest that the town consider reducing the price of the residential sticker to about $1, just so that we're not profiting off of residents for something that for decades was free. Residential parking for decades was free, and in my mind, what the townsfolk have to the change was that there's now parking along Washington Street. So if anything, we gain a lot of money from that. We have to navigate a bunch more traffic. Residential parking shouldn't cost that much.
Nina?
Yeah, so I guess one of the arguments I keep hearing towards keeping parking reduced for tourists and for people that are visiting B&Bs is almost as if I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, but almost as if there's like a favor that's being done by tourists visiting our town and that we owe them some sort of gift for visiting. I think we're thinking about this, at least in my perspective, from the wrong position. We are doing tourism a favor by providing a friendly, beautiful town for people to visit. And ultimately, it's every person who owns a home in our community that volunteers on our committees and commissions, that volunteers here on council, that donate to our children's park and donate to our community to make our place where we live a beautiful place to visit, that ultimately is inviting that tourism in. And by giving a discount to people that are benefiting from our hard labor as a town, I don't necessarily see how that's fair. And I think that's some of the argument that a lot of residents have is I have people parking in front of my place that are renting an Airbnb across the street. They have issues with noise. Not everyone is incredibly respectful of our community. And I think that's sort of the almost division a little bit comes from this perspective of are tourists doing us a favor by visiting, or are we doing tourism a favor by maintaining our community and providing a place that people want to visit? And so that's, I think, kind of one of the arguments for making sure that people are paying the proper amount for parking is that ultimately we are providing a place that people want to visit. And so should we really be giving a discount to visitors based on that?
Thank you. Roberta, last and final.
Have you had everyone comment round one, sir, first?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure we're following that. Okay, second rebuttal, Nina, you make some excellent points. And Chris, you are supposed to address the chair, not to me, and please don't insult me with where I say for tourism.
Okay, get to the
But,
point.
okay, yes, to the point, sir. I'm just following Robert's Rules of Order. So, I think Nina makes an excellent point. The dollars from this Park Mobile, from these paid parking, goes to maintenance of our town and the maintenance of these parking spaces and what it takes to maintain our town, maintain our beautification, maintain our beautiful little town that we have. So excellent points, Nina. And I think again, the parking should be paid for by all who take part in it. In tourism, everything should be paid for. We should offer no benefit. These hand tags for B&B is serving a special interest. And I don't agree that the hang tag should continue at all anywhere in our town. If you park on our right of way, you pay to park on our right of way. We have to maintain that right of way, and those funds help us do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Storm.
Yeah, for sure, we need to make sure we are looking after residents, but I don't feel like anybody is doing anyone a favor in either direction. It is a fact that it is tourism that subsidizes our ability to live here and function. This is one of the most heavily subsidized towns, maybe anywhere, that it depends on it. And absolutely, we do have the parking where people come and park. I do feel like the folks at run-ins are part of the community. It's not a UFO or an enemy. That these are folks who are making a living here, are part of the committee, serve on the committees and commissions and all the rest. And I don't think that they are taking much, if any, revenue away, given the way it's currently been constructed and amended.
Thank you, Storm. George, last and final.
Chris had his hand up before me. He was.
I saw yours go up. I didn't see Chris's, but Chris will be after you. So go ahead, George.
Okay. 95% of the people who live in this town do not make their living from tourism. Tourism could leave this town, and it wouldn't be like the factory left in tires in Dayton. But we love tourism here. We need it. My big point is I talk to people in this town who own bed and breakfast who have ample parking on their property, and they pay all the same taxes you talk about. They feel that we're subsidizing the B&Bs that don't have the parking. I'm going to ask this group here to come up with something better than 66 cents a day. And go full pop. I'm willing to compromise. So I ask whoever has left on this floor to speak to come up with another figure other than $20 a day, between $20 and 66 cents. We'll translate it into the language of the amendment here. And I would also like to say, I agree with Zach here. We don't need to be making money off our records. Cover the tag, charge them $1, and let's show a little bit of pride. So on. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Chris.
Well, $5 a year to own and park a vehicle in Harpers Ferry does not seem like a burden to me. But to address Nina's comment, I think there are a lot of towns of 300 people or less in West Virginia without our tourism. Go there and see what it looks like and see if you would want to live there. We owe our quality of life. We came here because this is a tourist town. It's a town of a park, of history, of trails, of rivers. And there are some the sacrifices, I guess, that we have to make. But the rewards are great. And I think we owe a lot of our quality of life to our tourists. Enough said.
Okay, thank you. Zach, go ahead.
I agree. There's a lot of good discussion. My one point I'll bring up, I don't know if this is actionable on us or not, but something that came up in the comprehensive plan survey were a couple different concerns from citizens. One was concern over, how do we handle Airbnb or short-term rental properties? Is that the right amount, or are there too many? That's a documented concern. There's another concern about retaining long-term residents in town. So the part that I'm not sure about is if raising the cost for short-term rental for parking might incentivize some of those rentals to shift from short-term to long-term, gaining us more members of the community who would be willing to serve on commissions and committees and that sort of thing. I don't think that's a one-to-one ratio. I don't think that'll have that much of an effect, but it's something that we should consider at least. And to George's point, I also don't know what the number should be, but I hope that we have some kind of discussion over that.
Okay, thanks, Zach. All right, let me weigh in for my 2 minutes, which will take about 30 seconds. I'm suggesting that we take a look at this parking policy that before us, consider adopting that, and then leave it up to the parking committee to consider reducing the $5 down to $1, to raise it up, George, to $20. Let that be a decision point for the parking committee to consider, and then come back once they've discussed it amongst themselves or whatever, and come back to this body for a recommended approval of that, as opposed to us dictating to the parking committee what we think they should be doing. That's why we have a parking committee. Let them consider the 5 to 1, the $20, or any other concerns that we've heard tonight. There's 2 members, actually there's 3. There's 2 members here tonight that have heard everything. So anyway, that's my point.
Greg, a point of information. I don't want to violate your rule here, but one of the problems we have is we put this whole matter off until the end of the year. And Melissa made it very clear that she needs to have the word on what we're doing by February 1st in order to get everything ginned out so that we can roll this thing out. Now, Patty, you're shaking your head. If we have more time, tell me. But I've been proceeding under the belief that we have to make the decision tonight, or else we messed up the whole time.
Okay. So Nina?
We'll start my thing.
Yeah.
I think I'm not anti-tourism. I do see the benefit of tourism, but when I ran and was elected, my position was that I felt I needed to be a representative of the residents of town, above any sort of private businesses that exist within town limits. I've visited a lot of the towns that Chris was referencing. Parks, history, trails, and rivers always exist without tourism. Harper's Ferry too has had long periods of where we were a tourist designation and then not really a tourism designation, and then tourism again. It kind of comes in cycles as sort of trends progress. $5 might not seem like a lot for everyone to pay for parking, but I do know that there are some residents in Lower Town that can't park in front of their houses and have to hike up the stairs and pay $5 to walk up that staircase every single time they want to bring up their groceries. And there's no possibility for them parking in front of their homes. And there are people that have complicated parking situations within town, and those all kind of have to be taken into consideration when asking people to pay for parking. If we are limiting parking, we are making certain areas more accessible for tourism through Park Mobile and things like that. We also at the same time have residents that their parking situation has become more complicated by allowing these areas to be more accessible to tourism. And that's some of the issues with allowing B&B parking and things like that within residential dictated zones. So that was my only real hesitation when reviewing the policy, was that there was some residential district kind of zoned areas that might be accessible for B&B parking. And if you have residents that have more complicated parking situations and they have to park on the street, that could become an issue with them. So I do think maybe it would be valuable to sort of speak to the population at large to ask some opinions regarding parking and policies and things like that. I know we have not, similar to kind of what happened with the comprehensive plan, I know we've not done anything like that, but I do think we do have time before February 1st to potentially have an open house to get a little bit more insight. My proposal as far as increasing the parking hang tag bundle, I would suggest that we just increase it to $30 instead of $20 and see how that plays out. And then we can reassess maybe within a year or at the next time when this is renewed. But I would like to consider that $5 fee and maybe what we can do to make that maybe more accessible for some residents where parking is already very difficult for them.
Okay, thanks, Nina. All right, council, we have a policy, George. I'm not taking any more discussion.
Motion,
Let me finish. I have the chair.
sir.
We have a policy that was provided to us by members of the parking committee, and the chair will entertain a motion regarding this policy.
Motion.
Go ahead. Is this written out?
It is written out. on
Okay, is it, you have copies for us? Is it going to be a long one, George?
No, it's relatively short.
Okay,
but I
let's
have
read the short,
copies
read the short one then.
I'll have copies for everybody.
Okay.
I'm just filled in the numbers here.
Okay.
Okay, here it is. A motion to approve the residential parking policy and permit process latest revision with the following changes. 1, page 3. Other circumstances, entitled Other Circumstances, annual permit fees change from $5 listed fee amount to $1.
I'll second that.
On page 3 of the revised policy, you'll see 3 fees there for $5. I'm proposing changing each one of those to $1.
Is that your first motion?
Now, that's the first part of the first change. 2, referencing page 4, titled Short-Term Rental, etc. Numbered 1A. Change packet cost amount to $300 for 2024, comma, $420 for 2025.
George, you've completely lost me.
Okay, I'm referring to the page numbers. I'm referring to the revised.
Are you on the revised,
Yes, I am.
this one?
Yes.
Okay,
What happened on that revision is the first 3 pages of that are the residential.
I've got it written out if you want to pass this around. I've got it.
Sure, here you go. The first 3 pages of their project were residential, and there are no changes there. The first 3 pages are residential. I'm changing the residential rates listed there. On the previous page, they're correct.
Also 9:30.
well, I get the $5 down to $1. I follow
okay.
that.
Okay,
Now
then-
you lost me after that.
Then if you flip to their page here, where it says at the top of the page, short-term rental, SRT, and bed and breakfast, B&B, et cetera, it goes on numbers 1, 2, 3, and then there's A, and then under A there, they have the host may purchase temporary, blah, 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 packet of 10 for $20. I'm changing that amount to $300 for 2024 and $420 for 2025.
Just to,
Where do you see 420?
his
That's my.
His
It's
proposed-
changing the cost from $20 to $300 for 1 year and then on to
and
$420 for the
For
420 for
the next
subsequent year. Yes,
Is that the end of your motion, George?
that's the end of my motion.
I move to take them separately.
Yeah, this is too.
As I
we-
believe, do you want to bifurcate the motions?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion on the floor, right, to do that? Is that how?
Wait a minute, who's running this meeting?
No, but
I believe I am.
I'm
Roberta.
asking the
Let me-
question.
Let
I'm asking the question.
Roberta, as the chair, I want to fully understand what the motion is. George, I do not understand where the $420 is coming in on page with this.
Okay, here
Would
we
you
go.
explain where that is?
Is he on the correct page, Zach?
Yes.
Okay.
If I can just clarify, I don't.
So
I guess
I'm
as a
gonna read,
point of order, if I may, I don't know if we can assess an amount for 2025 because this is the 2024 parking policy.
Yeah.
okay,
We may
so
have to wait
then
until.
I withdraw the 420.
That's what I've been looking for
Oh, thank you,
10 minutes, okay?
thank you. And so under item 3 and then item A, the sentence reads, owner/host may purchase temporary guest parking hang tag available at the police department in packets of 10 or, and I'm changing the amount from $20 to $300. Okay,
Okay,
is he on the correct page? Okay, so that's the
so,
second part of my, and we have a second from me.
okay.
To take them,
Yeah,
and I move-
I'm seconding and then you have your amendment.
right,
Okay.
I'm moving to take these two separately.
Okay,
Are you amending the motion?
Yeah.
I'm moving to have the two parts of the motion considered separately.
You're moving to
Okay.
amend the motion.
Was there a motion? I'm
wait a minute,
confused
wait a
now.
minute, let me control this, Roberta, just
I'm
let me
confused.
control
Okay,
it. Okay. Storm, are you making an amended motion?
I don't have Robert's rules in front of me, but technically it's not an amendment. It is moving to take components of a motion separately.
All right, so are you,
So we would split and we would first deal with George's item number 1, residential fees. And then we would go to the second part about short-term rentals.
For the sake of voting, we can just call it an amendment right now and then divide the two and vote on the two. And then we vote on the whole motion after that. So just for the sake of voting, is there a second for what Storm proposed?
yeah, we're getting too far in the weeds here. Zach?
I was going to second Storms.
Yeah,
I think Storm's proposal is the easiest way to do it, because then we're just tackling one, voting on one,
Yeah.
tackling two, voting on two.
Right.
and
We'd have a vote on the residential and then on the short-term
Right.
cost.
Okay,
all right, and we have a second on that.
And then we need to vote on the,
And then, well, we need a discussion on that.
discussion.
Are there any discussion?
There's no discussion about the
the-
split. It's pass fail.
Right,
well,
okay. Now, Roberta, what do you got?
okay, I
I
would
have
like.
9:30, by the way.
Yeah. so-
Yes, and I'm trying to hurry up, sir. So I would like clarification of what the motions are on the floor, because if you're trying to bifurcate a motion that's been made by George, I think there is a procedure for that. I'm trying to look it up in Robert's.
Okay, look it up real quick.
I'm trying, I don't find it.
9:31 now.
I know.
34.
But if you want to handle it simply, I think amending the motion like Nina suggested would probably be the quickest solution.
We
I
can't
can-
hear
She said
anything you're
that-
saying.
Handling it the way you
Speak.
suggested.
Yeah.
Do what you say?
Roberta said that handling it the way Nina suggested is probably a good
Should
way.
we just
Amending
vote on yes, no right now, and then just proceed
Well,
for the sake of time?
by Roberts,
No.
we have to
No.
vote on splitting it. Sorry, I don't have.
I'd like to
second.
ask for a vote on splitting, please.
All right,
All right, all those in favor? All right, cool.
all right, so good. All
Okay.
right, here we go.
So numero uno, discussion, right?
All right, we are now back to the annual permit dropping from 5 to 1 for each of those categories. Is that correct?
Amen.
Okay, and do we have a second on that motion? We have a second from Storm. Discussion on the motion.
I believe, Storm, both of those things have already been seconded and don't require any. You see, so we're
Probably.
into discussion here without the need for second.
Correct.
We're in the same place either way.
Yeah, all right,
well-
any other discussion?
Any other discussion?
Point
Go ahead,
of
Storm.
information, is there any difference as far as enforcement goes to it being $5, $1? No difference? Great, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? 1, 6-1. All right, your second motion that we're going to consider separately is on page, whatever it is, page 4. The owner host may purchase temporary guest parking hang tags available at the police department in packets of 10 for $300.
I have the floor.
I'm sorry, sure.
I'd like to make an amendment,
Sure.
to change 300 to 30.
There's our second on the amendment to change 300 to 30.
Second.
Nina has seconded that. Any discussion on the amendment motion to change from 300 to 30? George?
I'd like to point out that that makes it $1 a day.
Okay, thank you.
And that under my esteemed PhD colleague down here is much better at math than I am, did a calculation that the number of B&Bs who are using town right-of-way property at 66 cents a day for the hang tag, based on the actual hang tags that they purchased in 2023, at that price, cost the town in lost revenue from the full parking rate, if they were charged full, we lost $9,640 in the 9 months alone that parking rate was in effect.
Okay.
Now, what we're proposing to do is cut that loss down to a mere $9,000.
Okay.
Although with 12 months in effect, it'll probably be more. I'd suggest that anybody voting on this is for that $30 is voting to pull $10,000, $9,000 out of the town's pocket. And I think we owe the town some level of compromise. I took it down to half price from full pop. We're cutting it down vastly below that. I appreciate some bit of a compromise.
Okay, come on, George.
To the middle.
Come on. Thank you. Zach?
Just a point of information, before edits, what was the price on this page? I don't have it in front of me.
20.
Okay, thank you.
Fine. Nina?
I mean, this is, I guess, my version of a compromise. I think incremental adjustments to the pricing is more fair to local businesses that are already purchasing these passes. If we, $300 is a dramatic shift to suddenly start charging people. It'd be one thing if we remove the whole policy, but so I think that $30, then we reassess it next year. We reassess it every time the parking policy comes before us. I think is an easier way to kind of handle the change.
Okay, any other discussion on the amended motion? Roberta?
Yes, I cannot support the amended motion at $30. Again, as George stated, it's taking revenue out of this town that's desperately needed. He did compromise. The full price would have been $600 to purchase those hang tags because that's the full price of that parking space per Park Mobile. So he's compromised to $300. Compromising it way below to $30 is an excessive and I believe a fiscal responsibility that is a poor decision if we vote for this $30. We need revenue, we need funds, this town is hurting, and the parking seems to be our best revenue source. I cannot support the reduction down to $30.
Thank you. Any Storm? Last and final.
I agree with Nina that we should be reviewing these as we go along. If parking suddenly, doubles in demand, then it could warrant raising it more. But I believe right now it's a fallacy to say that we are losing those funds in that amount, given the testimony of the parking committee and the actual number of hours that are being parked by those folks.
Okay.
So I do support this measure as amended.
Thank you, Storm. No other discussion. We are now going to vote on the amended motion, which is to reduce the $300 down to $30. All those in favor of that motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-2, 1 abstaining. 4-2, 1 abstaining. Now we go to the main motion, which somebody refreshed the mayor's feeble mind at 9:40, by the way.
So the main motion is now Motion to approve residential parking policy and permit process latest version with the following, latest revision with the following changes. 1, page 2, other circumstances, annual permit fees change from $5 listed fee amounts to $1. 2, page 4, short-term rental, 1A, change packet cost amount to $30 for 2024.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion?
Roll call.
Nina, call roll.
Okay, Greg Vaughn,
Yes.
Zach Morris,
Yes.
Chris Craig,
Yes.
Storm DeCostanza,
Yes.
George Owens,
No.
Roberta Mead Curry,
No.
Nina Armstrong, yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-2. All right.
Okay.
Agenda item. Discussion action on appointing a town council member to the parking committee. We have one opening on the parking committee. Are there any nominations from the floor?
I nominate Chris Craig.
We have a nomination for Chris Craig.
I'd like to nominate George Owens.
We have a nomination for George Owen. Any other nominations? Nina, would you call roll for nominee Chris Craig?
Yeah, sorry, give me one moment. This is gonna get messy here. All right, roll call for Chris Craig, Greg Vaughn,
Yes.
Zach Morris.
Present. Abstain.
Chris Craig,
Yes.
Storm DeCostanza,
Yes.
George Owens,
No.
Roberta Mead Curry,
No.
and I am also going to be abstaining.
Okay, motion carries 3-2.
We don't have a majority of the full body.
Well, we have two that are voted present.
Yeah, we have a quorum of the body is required, but for the vote, it's the majority.
Agenda item.
So the majority would be 4 then, correct?
Point of order. The majority would be 4.
The majority of the vote that's taken.
I believe it's majority.
Present. Really?
It's present.
Let's look it up.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Look it up.
May I ask for a vote on my nomination?
No, we're gonna confirm where we are right now, George.
While we're doing this, I'd like to raise a point of information
Robert's rules.
about the membership of the parking committee. So I'm gonna pass around a page from the membership section of the page of the parking committee charter that we passed in December. Okay? I've got copies for everybody so that this late hour doesn't strain our eyes.
Where are you on the agenda, George? Right now, you've got the floor, but where are you on the agenda?
I'm on the agenda under the membership.
Yeah, but what?
Of the parking committee, and I'm raising a point of information about the,
Okay, just pass it around.
and
Pass your, may I have a copy?
You have one.
point of
Okay.
information.
Thank you,
There you
George.
go. And I wanted to point out, if I can, sir?
No, we're gonna do one thing at a time, and I want to confirm the votes first,
Okay,
okay?
very good.
Let me do that.
Oh, that's
Says a majority vote in the affirmative adopts any motion.
Can you say what page that is in Robert's Rules of Order, please, and section?
Just a moment, Roberta. This may not apply to nominations.
That's what I'm looking up too.
I was looking at 4:44.
Well, Greg, we're not too far off your 9:30.
The game's over by now.
Oh, that's right, you got a game.
Gotta rush home before anyone spoils it for you.
Who's playing?
Washington and Michigan. Yeah, don't anybody look the score up now.
We may, I don't want to disturb anyone else looking things up, but in the version I've been reading, if there's more than one nomination, both might need to be considered simultaneously. Is that?
Well, there are like 4 different methods
Yeah.
that are
Yeah,
That's,
described.
yeah.
I'll keep reading.
Nina, how did you vote?
Abstain.
You abstained, and Zach?
I abstain.
This came up recently in the Congress with the vote for the Speaker of the House, where the Republicans were hoping that some of the Democrats would vote present rather than for the majority nominee.
Present number of members as basis, 4:35.
I think 435 talks about a vote of a motion. It wasn't a motion, it was a
Yeah.
nomination and election, so
I think you
it's
are correct.
different.
A member can't make a motion to adjourn while the assembly is occupied with taking a vote.
Would either of the members who abstained or otherwise did not vote affirmative or negative like to change their votes?
No.
Gonna keep it in chaos, huh?
Didn't care.
Well, gang,
We may not.
my attention to cause a late night torture of a football fan, Greg. I'm sorry. What sport? It was football, right? It is football. I'm sorry.
It is. That's that odd shaped thing.
Yeah.
It's not the round one, George. That's
That I'd say fun. Do you remember the old Andy Griffith routine? I'm telling time here about the football game. You saw it the first time you came down from the hills. Okay, never mind.
He was way before my time.
Okay.
Here we go.
I think we have the answer. This is, Roberta, this is 44:1. The majority
Hello?
means more than half. When the term majority vote is used without qualification, it means more than half of the votes cast by persons entitled to vote. So yes, it would require four of the quorum that is here. So 3-2 does not,
Doesn't cut the mustard.
it does not.
Okay, George, do you want to change your vote?
No, I don't.
Okay. Roberta, do you want to change your vote?
No, sir, I would like to have a vote called for the second nominee.
All right, do a roll call.
All right, Greg Vaughn,
No.
Zach Morris,
Yes.
Ooh.
Chris Craig,
No,
Storm DeCostanza,
No.
George Owens,
Yes.
Roberta Murray,
Yes,
and I am abstaining.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
All right. Okay,
Well, so we don't have a number.
we've done that.
May I, in order to perform due diligence, point out point of information about membership here additionally?
Okay, you got 2 minutes, George,
I'll be
okay?
less
I'll give you
than
the
2
floor
minutes.
for 2 minutes and then we're going to go to the last agenda item.
I've been informed by a great legal mind, guys, that the membership of this Harpers Ferry Parking Committee the new committee has not been selected. It has not selected its resident member. I highlighted the language. It says initially, it says shall consist of 2 residents, resident 1, resident 2, who have staggered 3-year terms. Initially, resident 1 will be appointed for a 1.5-year term. Now, has any resident who is currently on that committee been appointed for a 1.5-year term? No, it's in the future tense. So it's something that will happen. And Greg, it's something that we need to do is appoint somebody. It says also resident 2 will be appointed for a 3-year term for subsequent appointments and we haven't done that for resident 2. It's further confirmed that we haven't appointed 2 residents when it says Harpers Ferry residents interested in joining the Harpers Ferry Parking Committee must send a letter of interest to the mayor, which is shared with the town council. We haven't gotten letters of interest from Mr. Petronis or Mr. Tierney. Have you sent a letter of interest in?
Okay, George, don't question the audience, just make your point.
So I would like to request, sir, that on the next town council meeting agenda, we appoint the resident members of the parking committee and that we post that and that we signal to everybody, including the incumbents, that they submit letters of interest.
Okay. Thank you, George. Agenda item number.
Can I ask you, sir, if it sounds like
no, that's not on the agenda, George. I'm not going to address that. I am going to go right now to 9A.
9A. Okay.
Oh, by the way, Roberta, Nina, and Storm, regarding 8A, I do have some minor suggestions on all 3 of your committees. Yours, Roberta, Storm, yours, and Nina, yours. What do you want me to do with them?
Could you email them?
I can, yeah, I will. Okay, they're very minor, but I think they make some sense. Okay, let's go to 9A. 9A is this is a very, I think, a worthwhile policy for this governing body. Every single thing in this 2-page administrative policy that you have comes directly out of Robert's Rules. Every single thing here. So I am requesting that this council consider adopting this. I believe that it will be a great aid to us when we have deliberations like we've been doing now since 7 o'clock tonight. If we pass this policy, which probably we should have been doing. Put your hand down, Roberta. I'll recognize you in a minute, okay? We should have been abiding by many of the things in this policy according to Robert's Rules, but we have not. And it was enlightening to me to read, to get into the weeds on this and find out what these policies are. And I think that we need to start adhering to this just for the utility and the efficiency of us conducting this meeting. So I would like the council to consider this, and I'm recommending that you take action on this. George?
Motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to postpone discussion and adoption and refer the policy governing debate, is what I'm calling this item, to all committees for review and comment.
I'll second that.
Discussion on that motion. George?
I agree with you completely, Greg, that everything that you've got here is from Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay, great.
However, there are many, many things that pertain to the very subject matter you've undertaken that are not in here, that materially affect the outcome that this produces.
Okay.
And among them, but not limited to, is the neutrality of the chair.
Okay.
Also, I found in Robert's Rules of Order where individual discussion is not limited to 2.5 minutes.
That's correct. But in Robert's Rules, it gives us the authority. Thank you.
So that is not from Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay, thank you.
So I would like to encourage, and the other matter is, these things may be great for us, but you've listed a dozen committees, and I belong or have belonged to some of them, that this kind of matter is not appropriate. I'll tell you why, and I'll make this real short.
Okay,
Because
very short.
in a lot of our committees, such as the last great discussion we had interrogatory back and forth. And according to this, I couldn't ask Nina a question, get an answer, then ask her another question.
Point of information,
Back and forth.
Robert's rules does allow it with a 2/3 vote to suspend
With
those
a
rules.
2/3 vote.
Okay.
Right. But that is a straitjacket.
All right, close it out, George.
Committees. I
Okay.
strongly recommend we show our committees respect to refer this to a later date. And it's also very complicated. Thank you. Thank you. for your patience.
Zach. You had a question?
I did, and I lost it. I partially agree with what George was saying. I think that we, by default, sort of were following this tonight for this meeting, and I think it helped. For the most part, we were following it. I think it helped discussion. I know that speaking as the acting chair of planning, a lot of times we do get into more discussion. If there is still room to suspend, especially the time limit or some of these in Robert's rules, then that could work. We should be aware that it would be it could be a significant change for some of the commissions and committees.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Roberta.
Yes, thank you, Zach. Well point, and George, good points. I think this also should be deferred to the committees. As a member of two of those committees, I don't think the 2.5 minutes will work at all. So also the Harper's Ferry, as you stated, Mayor, already has to follow Robert's Rules of Order according to Article 111, Section 111.14. So doing this policy is moot because you had said it yourself. You have copied word for word, and I've read it word for word against Robert's Rules of Order in your policy. So this is moot. We already have to follow Robert's Rules of Order, and I think bringing these points forward have helped us tonight to follow Robert's Rules of Order better. And I think that's our problem only. We don't follow Robert's Rules of Order in our meeting, and we get bogged down and confused and frustrated.
Hey, thank you.
No, I'm not finished. I'm sorry. So if we do this, we go down a slippery slope. I have 4 books on Robert's Rules of Order, which talks about what you're trying to do. You are actually trying to implement what they call special rules. Once a governing body has adopted a parliamentary law and a reference to Robert Rules of Order, they must follow it. They are bound by that. And we are bound by that right now by Article 111. If we change it, we have to change it by ordinance. We have to change it we can't change it by just a policy here. Okay. And we have to change it by ordinance, and we have to call it special rules of procedure. And understand, if we do that, there's now a hierarchy of our rules. And what you're proposing in this policy strikes out too much of Robert's Rules of Order, where the governing body, the members of the body, get to have a fair and equal discussion. Basically, the only thing that you've changed from Robert's Rules of Order is squashing the democracy and freedom of speech of your members and committee members by limiting them to 2.5 minutes. We cannot resolve or discuss important issues in 2.5 minutes. Understand, you cannot change our Article 111.14 following Robert's Rules of Order by a simple administrative policy. It has to be by ordinance. Thank you.
Storm.
Yeah, so I feel the genius of Robert's Rules of Order is its flexibility. And it was designed for situations where you have difficult and fractious groups that have a hard time coming to agreement, may have sharp personality differences, and these rules evolved as a way to give everyone a fair voice, a fair chance if you come prepared, if you know what you want to say. And I feel that this document can be passed, it does require a 2/3 vote. That's part of the beauty of the system, that it doesn't allow a minority or a smaller number of people to just change large rules willy-nilly. That's why you have that 2/3. So too, if you're another body or this body, we can decide to suspend that for a 2/3 vote. And I think what's been constructed is good. I feel like when we have actually hewed to this method, which we did tonight a couple of times, it was smooth. And I feel like we got good results that maybe not all of us were completely happy about, but it takes away a lot of the edge. I do feel like 2.5 minutes should be enough time most of the time. Again, if there's something that's more wide ranging and we recognize that maybe it's more complicated by 2/3 vote, we can do that. Again, it's 2/3 because you don't want to allow a minority or just a simple majority to just run roughshod over the group. So I feel like this is a very good method. You can argue about what the time limit is, but by spelling it out, and if we get into the habit, it'll become second nature. And I think that we're going to get a lot more done if we adopt this.
Right. Thanks, Norm. Any other discussion? Okay, read the, Nina, what was the motion, the main motion?
Motion to postpone discussion and adoption and refer the policy governing debate to all committees for review and comment.
Okay, we've had a motion.
We have a second.
Nina just read. We have a second. We've gone through discussion. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So read a motion again.
Motion to postpone discussion and adoption and refer the policy governing debate to all committees for review and comment. So
Okay.
basically just email it out to
Just send
the
it out.
committees and ask for comment.
Commissions and committees.
This just says committees.
Okay. All right.
Move to adjourn.
Yes, we have need a second. All those in favor? of
I'll
adjourn?
second. There's no second. Oh, no, there's a second. Sorry.
Yeah,
There's no
there is a
discussion.
second, no discussion. Anyone opposed to adjourn? All right, we are adjourned at 10:05, which is 35 minutes past the original time, which means that the game is probably over by now.
What game?
And George, don't look